Very, very warm welcome to all of you. On behalf of Architect and Interiors India, I thank you all for joining us today. I am Alicia Lad. I'm the sub-editor at Architect and Interiors India, and I'll be the host for this evening. So let me start by telling you a little bit about this event. Architect and Interiors India's flagship property design debate is all about taking on contested topics in the field of architecture. There are some new as well as old faces in the crowd tonight because we are actually revisiting Ahmedabad, and we kicked off design debate right from this city itself exactly 1 year ago. And ever since, every month, we have been to exciting new cities, and so far I think it's safe to say that design debate is absolutely taking the design fraternity by storm. And for a grand 12th edition, we realized that one edition is simply not enough to cover the length and breadth of the incredible work that is being done in this city. And so here we are, back again, but this time with a brand new theme, aesthetics versus economics, which I'm sure will keep you on the edge of your seats. You will be hearing a lot about the theme tonight, so I won't talk more about that. It's just my humble request as your host that we have a lot to celebrate today. We have amazing names, brilliant panelists coming up on stage tonight, and I think we should keep the applause going through the evening. So welcome to an evening replete with knowledge sharing, and let us have a huge round of applause again for Signify Presents Architect and Interiors India Design Debate, the Ahmedabad edition. Let me call on stage Mr. Indrajit Saoji, Group Publishing Director of ITP Media Group, to deliver the opening address. Let us have a huge round of applause for him.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Came to Ahmedabad, Vajjava. As Yatinji said, we are not charging for the front rows. You can occupy the seats here. Like there are a couple of vacant seats in the front rows. Please do. Ahmedabad stands out as a vibrant metropolis on the map of India. It displays a baffling mixture of capitalism and culture. The city has gone through innumerable transitions. The architectural saga of the city has shaped various cultural, social, and political dynamics. It's not only a seat of education, business, politics, but had given us most powerful leaders across various verticals. There can't be a better place to discuss on today's theme, aesthetics versus economics, when it comes to business of architecture. It's my absolute pleasure and honor to welcome you all to this Ahmedabad edition of Design Debate. We have completed a full circle, as Alicia mentioned. Last year we started our design debate journey from Ahmedabad and are back with a new theme. And it's overwhelming to see you all in person and to see the hall full to its capacity. I'm humbled by the warmth and love extended to us. And a big thank you to our curator, our friend who readily agreed to have wholeheartedly led our support despite his impossible schedule to make this event successful. Thank you, Yatinji, for all the help you have extended. A huge round of applause for him and for all of you for being here today and helping us make this event possible. Past couple of years have been really challenging for us, especially for the design and construction industry. The pandemic has definitely changed the way we work and the way we conduct our businesses. But before that, let me ask, do we really consider architecture as a business? Do we? We are still hesitant. Many of our designer friends are still hesitant to consider it as a business. The most common complaint I hear from architects is that architecture in school did not teach them enough about the business of architecture. Although students take a professional practice course in architecture in school, but most begin their career knowing very little about business. And it's true with most of the professions now. As young professionals, you might not think it's important for you to know about business. Besides, you are a cat jockey, urban ninja, or a design maverick. But I believe the better you understand the economics behind the project, the better you can manage your time, which in turn will increase your chances of project being successful and profitable. This will definitely improve your chances of promotion, leadership role in future in the organization. You may broadly classify business of architecture in two parts, economics or arts and aesthetics. You must be able to manage both of them to run a successful architectural practice. If you falter on any one of them, you are surely headed for a disaster. And you all know, you all are in a profession where you can't afford to falter. As they say, a lawyer defends your past. A doctor ensures you are healthy and safe on the present day. But you as designers have a potential to impact the future of generations. And you have the potential to save the city, to shape its skyline. So we as designers have to be very cautious on our actions, especially in developing country like India, where they say 70% of the country is still to be built. And we as designers are catering to only 4 to 5% of the population still. We are still scratching the surface. So the potential is huge and there is an immense scope to grow the business practice, and no AI, no chat GPT can stop us for sure. Today's design debate brings together subject experts in this field who will touch upon the mentioned points and on the immediate and long-term challenges facing architects today. We'll chat with these leading design experts and learn from their experiences and expertise as how we can prepare ourselves for the future and survive and succeed and make an impact, keeping economics in mind and at the same time not compromising on aesthetics. So let's hear it from our experts in the field, our esteemed panelists, as which side they are on. A big thank you to all our sponsors for believing in us and helping us bring this forum to this buzzing city to deliberate on these pertinent questions. A big thank you to Signify, our presenting partner, eCarpet Light, our hardware partner, Hafley, our associate partner, our exhibit partner, Bostic Knopf Ceiling Solutions. Without further ado, let me hand over the forum to Alicia. Sit back, relax, and enjoy your evening. Thank you so much.
Head Specification Sales and Lighting Application, Signify Innovations India, to deliver the welcome address.
Good evening, everybody. Good evening, eminent panelists, distinguished guests who are present physically here, and I also understand there are a lot of people, audience, who has joined online. So good evening to all, to this amazing city of Ahmedabad for the next 2.5 hours on an interesting debate, which all are looking for. On behalf of Signify Innovations India Limited, it gives me one pleasure to welcome here on this design debate in the city of architecture and design, which Ahmedabad is known for. If you see Signify as an organization, we always believe in working with the designer community. It is not only to service you people with our products and solutions, but also we take design ideas from you to develop innovative products which we launch in the market year after year. So we always being in the forefront in working with the designers like you. Here today, along with me, we have the Ahmedabad team, which you will interact at the end of the event, and we have also put up a stall there where you can see some of the new launches which we have done in the last few years. Without taking much time, I thank you everybody once again for this wonderful gathering in the intent to make this event successful. Thank you very much.
Application Sales and Lighting Application West Region of Signify Innovations India on stage to tell us a little more about the brand. Let us have a huge round of applause for him.
We will start with a short review introducing Signify and what all we do. So, Signify, as some of you might know, was earlier known as Philips Lighting. We are number one lighting company, be it connected LED or be it conventional lighting. We are present in almost 74 countries across world. We are also a carbon neutral company, and we have achieved 100% carbon neutrality in all of our operations across world. So, through our products and solutions, we are active into number of areas which enables us to contribute towards some of the world's most significant problems, like climate action, where we are contributing by innovating and introducing some of the world's most energy efficient LED solutions, which consumes less energy and is less demanding to the environment. In circular economy, for example, we are introducing products which uses recyclable and reusable components. So this generates very little waste. In terms of food availability and security, which is one of the major problems facing the world. So we are contributing towards this by, we have our horticulture range of lighting, which enables crops to grow faster, and crop yield is faster, quality is also better. In terms of health and well-being, we have our solutions, for example, human-centric lighting, which helps to increase the productivity of employees. We have also UVC solutions, which helps in disinfection and which also helps in reducing the spread of viruses. Now we look at a short AV and indicating how we are progressing in these areas. Now we will briefly look at some of the product portfolio. So we have complete portfolio for say commercial and office lighting, be it linear 2x2 spotlights, etc. Some of these products are also being displayed here. Request you to kindly have a look on it. Apart from lighting solution, we have complete range of lighting management system, be it wired or wireless. So we have complete range of controllers, sensors, and we have different keypads. So keypads can be engraved depending on your requirements. So everything can be done. So similarly, we have a good range in landscape lighting, which can be used for your street lighting, different kind of landscape lighting, etc. We also have a complete portfolio in solar lighting, be it solar post-stop, street lights, which can help you to save energy, as well as you can put these products into the areas which are not connected with grid. And apart from regular lighting applications, we also have big range for facade lighting kind of solutions as well. Thank you.
What the brand Ika Pidilite is all about, and for that, please welcome Mr. Krishnadeo Gohil, Regional Manager, Gujarat and Rajasthan, Ika Pidilite, on stage. Let us have a huge round of applause.
Thank you, Alisha. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's my pleasure to talk a bit about Ika and sustainability today on this forum. Ika Group has launched wood finishes business in Italy 5 decades ago. Ever since then, with its focus on quality and innovation, Ika has become a synonym or a preferred brand name amongst designers for wood finishes, luxury wood finishes. Ika came into India around 2 decades back, and in 2016, it joined hands with Pidilite to form a joint venture. Immediately after the joint venture, ICA has set up a state-of-art plant in India, which was well equipped with R&D facility to support the need of indified products. With presence in over 50 odd countries, ICA is a global leader in wood finishes, premium wood finishes. And today, after setting up the plant in India, to support the painters or applicators, or to train them about for the application of Italian wood coatings, ICA has set up workshop facilities across all major cities in India that is presently available in around 25 cities of India, which is not only well equipped, but it is also supported by qualified technical manpower, and which helps clients and architects with samplings, providing technical know-how, application-related services, etc. Talking about the product range, ICA has a range of products starting from Lucido to Finezza to Equabella and Creatia. So Lucido brings to you superlative gloss finishes, whereas Finezza will bring to you a large variant in polyurethane gloss finishes, as well as a spectrum of color finishes. Creatia allows you to play with your imagination. So Creatia is a range of special effects which allows you to play with your imagination and curate your purpose with wood. So Equabella is the range of water-based products which serves the purpose of eco-friendliness and less health hazards while using these products. ICA has been pioneer in launching water-based wood finishes. That's how there is a connect in today's presentation. It has been awarded EU White Mark and the Green Card ACE validation. It is industry first in introducing oil-free, bio-based coatings also. It is partner in Sustainable Development Goals, the 2030 agenda of UNO. So, talking about Equabella, which is water-based coatings, we have a range of products available in this, which would include interior products, which is available again in different finishes like clear and pigmented. Again, in different, in clear finish also, we are offering different gloss levels. Exterior range is also available, pigmented is available. Different metallic finishes are available in Equabella finishes. The advantage of using Equabella finishes or water-based finish would be it emits low VOC. It contains low volatile organic compound. It is low on odor. It has got very good stain and scratch resistance. It has got very good anti-yellowing properties, less harmful chemicals, and higher elasticity. It also offers better coverage. It reflects eco-sensitivity. So I think this is it about our product range. We'll quickly go through, we'll go through the ad that we've recently launched on digital media.
Italian wood finishes. Good taste shows.
Yeah, thank you. So looking forward to meet you at our stall on the backside. Thank you.
And now we move on to the most awaited part of the evening, which is the panel discussions. And I would like to kick off by acknowledging our curator for the evening, a man who needs absolutely no introduction, Architect Yatin Pandya, Head Architect, Footprints Earth. Please let us have a huge round of applause for him. Little can be said about the staggering length and breadth of Yatinji's work. He is an author, he is an activist, he is an academician, a researcher, all while wearing the hat of a hugely successful practicing architect as well. And his body of work is awe-inspiring, of course. He espouses a holistic approach in architecture in all his designs, like everyone might already know, underscoring more relevant than ever topics of culture, context, construction, as well as climate. talent. He also has an exhaustive list of accolades to his name, which cannot be summarized. I tried. And we could not think of a better name than architect Yatin Pandya, a man who knows the ins and outs of the design fraternity right here in Ahmedabad, to conduct and direct today's proceedings. His words, as you all may know, will of course spin stories that will engross every one of us. He was part of Design Debate, Ahmedabad's first edition, all one entire year ago, and he is helping us kick off this event in this city once again, and we are back because of Yatinji's support. So let's please give it up for this charismatic man once more. Yatinji, if I could please have you on stage for the felicitation. And to felicitate him, I would now like to call Mr. Soman Bhamuk, Mr. Deeppreet Singh Bindra, General Manager of Courtyard Marriott Ahmedabad, and the ever dynamic, the ever energetic Mr. Vibhor Srivastava, Managing Director, ITP Media India. Let us have a huge round of applause. I'll now hand over the forum to Mr. Yatin.
Gave a podium thinking that I'll be able to hide my paunch, but that's all I have to flaunt, so I thought doesn't matter, let me be here. Thank you for being here on Friday evening. We thought of saving you from the wife's mall demand, so probably you would be happy for that. But we are all wired and it's also going live, so we might be politically correct here. I have a freedom because my wife is at the mall. Today, I think we need to remember two things before we start our proceedings here. It's 106th Foundation Day of Indian Institute of Architects. So the fraternity can clap and remember the institution that, and can I play a good Ahmedabadi? May I call as a representative Praveen Bhai, the stalwart on that, to share it with IIA as a part of. He has been the constant feature around. I knew very well it is one person in the audience. And the other one just happens to be, since we are talking about aesthetics here, may not be, Lara Datta, exactly same day in 2000, 23 years ago, was crowned Miss Universe. So it was her aesthetics, but now she's into getting economics. So with that. So things have not been so much pulled apart, You probably need the first aesthetic, then. Okay, so what we're going to talk about, just to understand where we stand as professional. All discussion is within the ambit of, I would say, architecture profession. There was always a debate, who created the world and who is the first. And this was a debate between the biologist, the economist, and architect. And biologist says, of course, the God created from the, ribs of the man and the woman, and that's how the world came about. So, of course, the biologist. Architect couldn't be behind, says that no, there was a chaos. It's the architect who came, created heaven and the hell and whatnot. So the economist smiles murkily. You hit the nail, aren't you missing the point? Who created the chaos? So that's where the probably debate needs to lie. What I was to do is, of course, as I said, you would be hearing the stalwarts and their points of view. Two architects don't agree, so I'm not afraid about the debate part of it. And many of them are also husband, wife, or father-son teams. So we all know what happens then. So let me just set a little tone into this. The force of habit. I put together a few slides, but more to introduce the topic as well as the speakers or the panelists here. Is it about economics of aesthetics versus and I leave it to those points of view coming from the real practitioners, or is it about the aesthetics of economics? Probably it's both. Probably it's what to be debated. Is it censored? So we've been all taught, that architecture, it's about as much art, as much as science and all. We're always told with these wonderful stories that to be an architect, you first have to be a sculptor because it's about scale, proportion and all that. Then you also have to be a dancer to understand rhythm and pause and all. For that, you have to be a musician to really be able to choreograph that and expressions, etc. Music comes from poetry and all that comes from life. So while architect is supposed to be not only the master but has to engage in all, and today's presentation or speakers, we also have people who have been into many of these fields, and I'll let them. All right, so as holistic architecture, we've been always told that it's all about the 6 performance criteria that architecture should go through. So those being in this order: timeless aesthetics, because building is going to last beyond us; socio-cultural appropriateness, because you're always doing for someone; and the way of life, functional efficiency, environmental sustainability, economic affordability, and structural strength. And is that not what we found? And we're not kind of turning the clock backward, but just to understand that is aesthetic and economy indeed an opposition, or they have just evolved together in respect of each other? Is aesthetic indifferent to the ways of life? Can economical not be aesthetic? This was 75 rupees a square foot, done 20 years ago newly, with architecture, interior, everything you see here. Next, please. If that was, no, one before, sorry, but it doesn't matter. You can put any name of any place that you know on any side and that would still work. So architecture, is it really an outcome of economics, or is it of aesthetic or perceived notion of both? And that's important to know. Next, please. So does aesthetics sell? Is it a selling point? Is it an important point even for the patron? Or does it make economic sense as well or not? Next. We see both are Kerala. We need to make our own judgment from where left or right comes from. Next. Both are Jaipur. Next. Both are Kolkata. We leave it to our own value judgment. Is aesthetic a premium? Is it something to be added or talked about? Or is it integral dimension of architectural services? Like you go to a doctor, do we have to give a brief, please cure kar dena? That's exactly a part of his profession. So likewise, is that not an integral part of our services? Next. Aesthetics, is it about the visual appeal or experiential engagement? So it's a framework and disciplined aspect of organizing and ordering things. So it's not just a beauty, A lot of people saw the title and came via the parlor and the boutiques, beauty parlors. Is it about embellishment or being with nature? Is it not just being part of the context? Next. Can economic and functional not be aesthetic? We all have been told about this one as one of the most basic, and yet even today if we teach it in the textbooks. Next. Kobus is building a 70-year-old now. Are impediments the bylaws, the regulations, or anything else? So this is the pinching point, if at all we think that any of this has been the kind of impediment. Next. Is it esoteric? So on one hand we say aesthetic, but is it too, thank you. At least one person would have been awake. Is it esoteric? So what really defines aesthetic? Is it designer-centric? Is it a means of creating personal identity? Or is it plural and can be approached to reach out to every existence? Is aesthetic a prefixed idea or a formula or an outcome of the processes? For example, there was a study done in Japan that if this formal ties tuxedo is not made compulsory to the senior executives, they would have felt the same level of comfort with couple of degree warmer AC temperature. So it was the wrong dressing, the reason for having to jack up the energy, you know. So if Mr. Mohanlal or people from that region are bare-chested and with the moon, are they primitive or they are the Salman Khans of respective regions? We knew Gandhi who could clad and wrap whenever needed, so that was the eternal Gandhi for us. Do we need Gandhi to do that, or to a line that it's by the fashion when it's cool and when it's not so in summer, winter? You know, actually the aesthetic definition changed. 1917, Mr. Marcel Duchamp, in a pseudonym, put actually the thing like this, you know what it is, on a Museum of Modern Art as an entry for an art, and with a pseudonym, Mr. Mutt, he entered in the competition. He was also the part of the committee, and that was of course rejected, but rejected on the count of originality. But the counterpoint that was put up, that was the one that created a debate about what is aesthetics. It said that somebody found this out, put it in a way, not in the way that people use it, and put it in the place, and that's what makes it a design or an aesthetic, okay? So anyway, so that was the debate coming from way back. He called it fountain. Talking of that, where we make blunders for a lot of PhD topics to solve, but aesthetic can come to the rescue without affecting the performance. It can enhance and whatnot, and I'm sure none of this costed really more. You know, like these are the switch designs coming out of this, that, you know, if you keep the switch on, then the ghost smiles at you. Keep it for very long, it frowns at you. In Ahmedabad, we don't understand these subtleties. So, mera kitna taka, every time you have to put on the light, you put the coin in, and then we become very romantic. You know, aaj to full moon day, nahi chahiye bijli, you know, let's see that. You know, the British invented hat or cap, if you come on its own, you don't need patawala to close it. And that one probably is a French who are romantic, who just whispers, can I turn you on? Well, we had examples of designs which were aesthetic and functional and no cost, etc., etc. And Mr. Baker actually created sustainable aesthetics. There are many ways in which economy and aesthetics have been brought together apart from other advantages. So what are we talking about? Timeless aesthetic versus fashion of time? Is it an integral to the services of architecture? Is it add-on and therefore should be costing or not? And within countries who set aside compulsorily in any public building a proportion, an economic portion for public art, and that's where we see and people enjoy. So point is, it's not a self-referential thing. The reality is that everyone hates economics till the design starts. You know, हमें सब कुछ wonderful चाहिए, world number one, international. But when you start, then they will come up with the budget and tone down everything. And same way, everyone loves aesthetic. We want it wonderful till the design starts. So that's the reality what we are in. We begin somewhere and then it ends up somewhere, you know. So, where lies the impediments, if any, or derailment of the priorities? So that's the point. I'll leave it for the architectural discussion. Or we have to put our foot down and say, I'm an architect. To save time, let's just assume that I'm never wrong. So let's start our meeting with that. Or we might put this out, that if it's a standard designed by me, hourly rate is this. If you're watching over me, then it is higher. If you're helping me in design, then it's even higher. If you're working on this first, then it's about the highest. And then if you're telling me how to do, then it's the highest that I will charge you. So with that, let me introduce the actual Khans and Kapoors here. We begin with Mr. Hiren Bhai, needs no introduction. Very versatile personality, He's into art himself, art collector. I just heard he's a half Ironman. God knows how many kilometers, that many in my life I have not even driven, but that's what he has done in 9 hours. And of course his designs, etc., we know. And as the picture says, he always likes to look up, and and these are aesthetic and economical endeavors. He's been into housing, he's been into elite houses, and he's of course been also for NGO doing the center in a slum. So that's a full range where probably aesthetic is the constancies, and he's as easy with the rupee of the slum dweller as well as euro with the European whatever. So just to give some visual references, so when he talks about aesthetics and economy, we know it's being talked about in euros, but it's also some of these. And he just sent some sketches, so some of these to know that while conceiving, what are the kind of standpoints and back of the mind inspirations or references. So you know that how the space gets conceived where you don't see a rupee note or an economic equation coming here, no mathematics. So HPA says happy, positive, and accountable. So that's Mr. Hirendai. We have another Mr. Kapoor here. This is his profile from Surat, so it's a good collection also. And he's been into very large urban projects as well as the very niche one. So he says care to be the motto of his firm, climatically responsive, ambient, resilient, and of course, efficient or environment friendly, I would say. He stands for economy also, which is to find out in a picture. And these are some of the outcomes of his firm's work. So one hand it's this high-tech, other hand is classical, traditional innovations, housing, etc., etc. And even Gopi Talab, one of the urban scale interventions through design to bring it to the people back. Well, we have Mr. Neeraj Shah, again a very versatile personality. He has been, his work will show, but he has been, of course, a space designer. He has been an image maker or a brand maker, so he does a lot of those. He does graphics. He's also been into promoting the films, etc. And I think he has just hidden one slide. Probably he might even act into one of the films. So I'm just waiting for that poster. And he just recently also revealed that he does these music on the electronic media. So we have Mr. Neeraj, and just visually from corporate offices of different scale and range to many hospitality sector, many show windows, even retail, dining, hospitality. Actually, here the aesthetic sells. It's good for economy of the business, both ways, but so residences, showrooms, and even this. So you know where to get your passes for the next film. Ahmedabad. And of course, many have just come from the beauty parlor. You can also get yourself a photo album shot. So this photo shoots, the book design, and also the branding. Well, you have another stalwart here, Kunal Patel. You know him from earlier Avtara with HCP, where the CG roads and the riverfronts and all, where he was at the helm of things. And then since recently he started on his own firm as well. his philosophy will wait for him to spell out when he comes and says. But this Rajkot underpass designs, or like this halfway to some of these industrial setup factory. He's traveled to 55 countries, I don't even know how to name 55 countries in my atlas, but it will be good perspective to know the kind of comparing the notes, etc. on that as well. And some of these are also from India as well as overseas as work. Residences, strategic lighting, production facilities, and also in a very eco-sensitive place, the riverfront, etc., like Bhutan. We have also an industrial representation and the CEO from there, and we all know that lighting enhances the architecture, and it's both functional as well as aesthetic is a byproduct, because our buildings are in the dark, not getting appreciated. And I think thanks to the both consultants and the manufacturers of this sort, that they fill into this. So we have the perspective coming from the industry as well, both as professional as well as the producer of this and the subsidiary or whatever, the umbrella of Philips in that sense. So we saw the presentation, so we roughly know, but these are the applications, and you can see what is the role of it, and Nirmit here might also add a few things. So let's talk about economically about the aesthetic, and aesthetically about the economics. So may I welcome all the debaters or talks here. Thank you. And there are a lot of trailers here to see. So the main film starts now, 70 mm, starring all that, and the time begins. All right, so let's begin with Hiranbhai himself. As I was saying, probably he's the most privileged one, where maybe the clients don't talk about economics. At the most, they might be talking about whether it's Italy or whether it's Dubai or whether it's Bali. Is that so? How do you take it?
I would say that good evening to everyone. I would say as a designers, we have been always taught, as you say rightly, that we always bunk our professional practice classes. So we were always like an artist. And so obviously being an artist, I would say that whenever the design problem comes to you, it's normally aesthetics. I mean, you hardly think about the economics that way. When the client repeats and you realize the last time he did not pay you, then you remember economics comes first, as well, no, in a lighter moment. But basically, as a designers, I would say we would think of aesthetics, and that to me, like, aesthetic doesn't really matters with the economics, or as you said, it's about the beauty of creating something which is timeless functionality, and that's how the aesthetics comes. It's not just superficial facade of that, but in more in a deeper meaning, I would say. And then you know the background of the project, and then economics works. If Ram Brahmi Tekra we are working for that, obviously I will go to see a similar kind of project for my own study, because I've been working with the elite, let's say elite houses or something like that. I would go and definitely see based work and realize that's something beautifully done with the broken things, and then you adapt that, because you have been taught in a way of designing the proportions and everything. So when we work with Manav Gujjar, for example, yes, the first thing was that it was for the underprivileged children, and we say that the children, they don't know poverty. Who are we? We say you are poor guy, but they don't know. I mean, so why are we to say that? So that time I remember that we wanted to make very economical things, but we wanted to make world-class things. But we thought with the idea, let's create a building which is exposed concrete and exposed brick, just to make sure the workmanship will be good. So I would say the kind of projects take you the kind of economics, but as a designer, it's always aesthetics and functionality to me.
Thank you. Let's go to Neeraj Bhai. you have been into a kind of profession where actually I suppose you are bringing out the aesthetic essence for it to sell. So it's for economics that you're using aesthetics, whether it's branding, whether it's projecting what they are. So probably they don't know you are creating the roop to be able to be appreciated. Is that right, or what way are you looking at it?
No, I think that's absolutely right. So all of it, I mean, even today, whatever we are discussing, whatever we are looking at, is definitely contextual. And today the context is based on aspiration. And all that we are trying to sell, because if it needs to sell, it must be aspired for. If there is an aspiration, there is what we call as a WTP, which is a willingness to pay. And that willingness to pay is what determines the economics, and vice versa. Because our role comes in after the architect has already done the job, which means the positioning of that particular project has already happened, and that needs to be conveyed in the right manner. The exaggeration in branding is only about 10 to 15%. If it is exaggerated higher than that, that means you are not connecting to the target in the right way. So that means the aesthetic and the economic are absolutely interconnected. It cannot, if it is going to be a 5 BHK luxury apartment in Dubai versus a 5 BHK luxury apartment on Ambi Bokul Road, versus there is going to be a difference between all three of them. So the aspiration is not the space, it is about where you wish to be. And it is already pre-designed in that manner. It must sell in that manner to make economic sense.
All right, thank you. Let's go to Snehal Bhai. He has been also doing the public kind of domain intervention as well as many other projects. Do you see it becoming a little more of a difficulty or a contradiction or an impediment when you're dealing with the kind of patron that is government or municipality or so? You think there are more constraints there, or it is really not so? Or the IAS officer only sees the PowerPoint and awards you rather than, but the engineers then come and say, "Ye nahi chalega."
No, I guess it's been a long journey. So when we come out of college, we learn from teachers like you, and a lot of paradigms about what is good aesthetics, what is the philosophy of architecture or the works that we try to do. They were very strong, and we started the practice holding on to that. And then over a period, after running an office and understanding the dynamics of running an office, handling a client, things start blurring it out. After a while, you start understanding, in fact, a big dahliz to cross is to accept our profession as a service provider. The moment you cross that, at that point, aesthetics in terms of the values of the balance or the composition has to be there. But when it comes to the style or the aspirations like Neeraj mentioned, one has to look at it, what the aspiration is and how good and how well can you deliver that. So in that sense, it's a long journey, and the way we look at aesthetics and economics now has really changed a lot. And and it doesn't change when you do a government project, you're doing a school for underprivileged, or you're doing a swanky bungalow for the richest diamanter in the world. It's the same.
All right. Thank you. Kunal bhai, you've been to 55 countries. I won't know even all 55 names, but I'll jump to that. Do you see the kind of varied perceptions about this aspect, whether it's economic, whether it's aesthetic, from place to place? Where do we stand here in terms of whether it's policies, whether it's outlook, whether people like aspire for? You see there is a difference?
See, basically, like taking off from what Snehal said, that world over, so what we're realizing right now, so even in this whole debate about economics and aesthetics, the world out there has moved many steps ahead, and they are already in a state of refinement.
I think.
So should I take
Your wife has to hear you later.
So they are already in a state of refinement and sort of balanced plane where we are still in a lot of chaos. Going ahead from what Snehal said, that the first threshold is to realize that we are service providers. I think another larger issue to realize is that the architect also has a larger goal to play on any project. So whether it is urban design or whether it is a small bungalow or designing a piece of furniture, you are only an integrator of many disciplines, and it is your judicious choice of what and how to balance that creates this equation of whether the project leans specifically in a particular direction. So I think that, but over the period of looking at urban projects, looking at where we're dealing with public money, and there the approach is always frugal. You don't want to spend too much. There is not that much money considering the scale of the projects that. So there's always the pull on, try to do it for less. Can we do? So then choosing the materials wisely, making sure that the details work, making sure that the thing holds, maintenance free, public can use. So I think those are important aspects where again aesthetics and economics do need to be balanced out at a much larger scale. And I think if you see developed countries like Europe and the efficiency they have in everything from the transportation systems to the maintenance cycles that they put in place, to simple things like water and drainage and the larger issues that I think that they've already, so we're still struggling there and there's a long way to go.
All right. Maybe coming to the industry, Mr. Soman, I always thought it was showman, because coming from the lighting industry, that's what probably is what you need to do. But I think it's a precarious conditions for both industry and the kind of specialists to deliver their services to balance these two, because as I said, that it definitely is needed to enhance, especially when it's dark. So how do you glorify or hide our mistakes at night? And for that, the people are not willing to pay that much cost, So as both product which needs to be taken up because of its aesthetic along with the performance, but aesthetic precedes, and yet it's the cost, the pinching point of it. So how as innovators or applicators do you see this balance?
So I will answer this in a couple of points. First of all, aesthetics and economics is a part and parcel of our everyday salespeople. We land in any project, we have to keep in mind the design of the designers, what they have built for, but at the same time when it comes to the actual end users or when the contractor comes in between, then all the design concept and other, we see a lot of dilution which happens. Basically what I will try to highlight here is that in experiential, when we talk about aesthetics is not only a physical aesthetic of a product. You also referred in your presentation, there are certain experiential aspects of aesthetics. The kind of projects which Neeraj Bhai does, the selling, branding for other people to earn revenue, I think that is a particular segment. If I talk from the perspective of lighting, office lighting, why we talk about health and well-being, it is the experiential part of aesthetics. Or you talk about retail and hospitality, where you have the experiences, shoppers' experiences. I think there we see a lot of respect being given when it comes to the aesthetic part of it. But if you talk about government projects like infrastructure, road, or it talks about more on the economics. Having said that, also it is not of the economics which is the capex part of it. Now people are also educated to look what is the operational cost, so that at the end of the day, when you evaluate as a user, what is my total cost of ownership, that comes a very big way. I think it is a daily challenge for us. And the second part of the question for an organization for like us, who are catering in different segments, you cater from a very high premium segment to mid segment and then from the bottom half of the pyramid. You have to have a strategy of your product categorization. Which product where you will sell. you cannot also ignore the bottom segment because that is a huge thing. So when we do our innovation in-house, we have product category which is basically the core range, which is basically the mass product kind of thing, because their aesthetic does not play a very important role, or the end user who are using it does not see much value to the aesthetic part of it. Then we have a certain product category which we call the statement range with good specification, look and feel, and then comes the performance range, which is the top of the pyramid. So this is how we, from the industry segment, we are dealing each and every project depending upon the budget of the project and the end user vision for the project.
What kind of a market feedback mechanism you have before you launch both the kind of application as well as the product itself? That meaning more emphasis on what as a feedback that you get. Is it people after the looks, or is it all value for money, of course? But
so we, throughout the year, as I mentioned in the inaugural speech, that we work closely with the designers in the B2B space, where we try to gather information about the future trends, what is happening in different applications, and we do something called customer paneling, where we go to the designers, the architects in each of the segment, take inputs of their feedback, and then we make something in our own kitchen, and then revalidate the same thing, going back to them, whether this is the thing you are looking for this particular segment of customers, or you need further changes to your applications. So this is a long process. It is not a process of one day. It is a process of maybe 6-7 months, which to and fro between the designers and our organization happens, and we have a dedicated team of marketing and my team who works closely with the designer to design to address these issues.
but in a presentation to the architect or the client, is first slide about the glossy picture, how it's going to look, or is it about the cost, this is going to cost you?
It depends upon because when you are going to a client, you know the background of the client, you know the purchase power of the client, you know what the past kind of work he has done, what are the ambition, what is the core theme of that organization. So you know that, and accordingly you make your pitch.
Because as architect, we keep it at the last, and usually we rush it through. तो बाद में देख लेंगे.
As you mentioned rightly, when introductory this thing, everything needs to be world standard at the beginning. Ultimately, when it comes to the paper board,
Neeraj bhai, you mentioned about the context, the people, their aspirations. So, if you were to project a slum rehabilitation project, would you pitch it higher for their aspiration, what they're going to get? Or if Mr. Ambani would make him look humble and pitch it lower than what he could? How would you look at it?
That's a trick question, typically. And if I'm able to answer it also, the credit goes to him because he is my professor. But I'm going to try it. So I think number one, any communication is obviously based on the TG. And I think there was a very good point that Hirenbhai made recently when he just said that they don't know about poverty, they don't know they're poor. So the thing is that when you are providing a need that exists, you don't need to sell, right? And that's why we say, that necessity is the mother of invention. That's how the jugaad happens. And it happens irrespective of the resources. And when that need is fulfilled, we are all right. And when he was talking about the pyramid, it's also Maslow's pyramid. So we aspire, we keep going up that pyramid. And when our needs are fulfilled, we look for something else. So what Mr. Ambani is looking for, whether he is redeveloping a slum, is a different benefit in his life and in his achievements. Whereas what he's trying to do in terms of to be able to provide to that slum is what the slum is getting. So there is a huge gap in any case between the two.
Because you have to say that you're going to afford it. It's going to be your possible, achievable dream. And at the same time, it's a dream come true. So,
yes, absolutely. Absolutely. No, I think the dream word is the real connect, because that's where everything is led to, right? I mean, advertising is led from, selling a dream, and which is not wrong. And that's where I think that I don't even think there is a debate between aesthetics and economics. I mean, because I think they are completely interlinked. It's only about where you are at what time and what is your particular need and desire. And that is what determines it. As designers, it's different. because we are providing for somebody else. So I'll give you that example, and that's why there was so much of retail design here. And it's very interesting in retail design. What happens is that when you have an initial design, which we call a flagship store, so the flagship is done in a certain manner, in a certain aesthetic, which starts standing for everything that brand stands for, including the new experience that brand wishes to give. And whether it's a restaurant or it's a showroom. Now, after this, what we call is the alpha and the beta stores happen. So the specs change, but the aesthetic and the experience remains almost the same. Which means that if you go to all those stores, you still get a similar experience, a similar feel. You still connect to the brand in that manner. But the flagship is done at, say, like a Wills Sport was done when ITC did Wills showrooms. They were about 18 years back. They were done at the cost of 6,500 rupees a square feet. And then the roll-ons, after the beta, the roll-ons were done at almost about 2,300 to 2,800 rupees a square feet. But the specs didn't change too much. But they were look-alikes. And that is the beauty of design. That today we can do this in order to get a certain feel. And something else which is lower down may not be fake, but it may be imitating itself in order to give the same experience.
Okay. I was reminded sometimes the shoot of a new fashions are done in the backdrop of some kabaddi bhangar, so usse to acha hi lagega. You can have that.
So that is done. Yes, you are absolutely right. Contrasts are created.
Right. Thank you. Hiren bhai, you mentioned. Please go on.
I see that.
You've been.
Yeah.
Really.
I am audible. Yeah. Okay. So what I think that when you start thinking about profit, then economics comes. But if you don't think, then the aesthetics doesn't need to connect with the costing and everything. See, if I'm just let's say you are going the evening aarti in some temple and the ringing sound of the bell and the light just hitting to the idol, and that's the magical moment, right? So if I look at the puja room with that quality, and money doesn't matter there at all. So if you become very mature to this thing, Satwarya, marble, the planing, everything is very superficial to me. Yes, when you come as new designers, you become to So I always remember my experience that so many years before that I went to Delhi where the Charles Correa had designed the British Library building, and then the pergolas were what? Simple pipes. I mean, so you realize that you think, I can do this. And then the similar, next moment you say, I can't do, because for doing this, it's like almost like a Zen master. I mean, it's so much of things of perfection, then the material doesn't matter at all. I mean, you don't need this heavy sandals and everything to get the quality of that thing. No? So that's the matter. So once you get the wisdom, you understand that thing, it's no matters what material you're using. And that's why, like Charles Correa's early work, where so much of refinement was there. He was like very perfectionist, but at the end of these things, they were timeless. It doesn't matter what pie cut gayi hai to bhi chalegi, no? Rusting hoga doesn't matter, because what he created is space. And when you start thinking of space and those things, the material doesn't matter. So it's you're walking through one simple structure and you see the cashew of flowers falling down on the mud floor. I mean, that's the beauty. I mean, you cannot have 10,000 rupees of marble, and if you have, as a designer, to start falling in that, it's absolutely you are doing the wrong thing. So let's say you have kind of economics happen where your client comes. So it's a desire, and he wants that. But as a designer, you have to stick to those roots. If you just fall into the artificial things, you are not creating something good. So I would say all the youngsters that don't fall into materialism, yes, you have clients who can afford things, you do for them. But that's not an answer. Answer is somewhere else. You have to go to the railway station and sleep in the night to just get back your sensitivity. That's what it is.
Right. Yeah, thanks. Because my question was always going to be an extension of what you just said, but still you can say a word on that. On one hand, you have the privilege of getting 12 lakh rupees chandelier, and at the same time, that community hall or the Ram Rahim Tekra kind. So what is the constants? And both speak of the so-called aesthetics without economic coming in the way. So what is that constant?
Yeah, so if you are working with the richest people, you have to hit your head every day that no, you have to bring your back, niche बैठकर खिचड़ी खाओ, and no, you come back to the realities. Otherwise, you are in a trap. And the Instagram, everything is clap, clap, clap. Everything looks good. Nobody criticizes today. That's the biggest problem. I mean, somebody say, hey, I always admire Aniket Bhagat. You say, yeah, you are so potential. What the hell you are doing? And then you realize, my God, my well-wisher colleague is fighting to you. And then that's why we could create something beautiful in oneness. You say, come back to your original sensitivity of design. And we say, if he is doing the master planning, I have fear. Because Aniket is going to select, not your client. And then you come with such a beautiful thing. If you know you work on the brochure, and that's the joy of things. So you realize it's beyond all these things. So if absolutely you have to go back, sit in the quietness, if fed up, just go for cycling or whatever, bring your back, you have to bring your sensitive back. And you are all professors have taught the same thing. We all are falling in a wrong trap with इतनी lady, sorry to say this and that, but I mean आज भी लाइट वो सिलेक्ट करते हुए बहुत ज़्यादा देखना पड़ता है, तो we are still what? I mean, so much of innovation we say, but मेरे कपड़े का कलर देखने के लिए तो लाइट बंद करके बाहर जाना पड़ता है, तो they are still not reached to the nature. So
have actually
So
in retail,
You might want to use this additional support, maybe. Before dinner, your voices are less heard there.
No, I'm okay. I can now.
Yes, do that, please.
So, I think that we must also realize, and I think as all of us have more than 100 years of experience between us. No matter what kind of nature of project, what scale of project, whatever we do directly impacts lives. So, whether it's, how people live, how people enjoy, how people work, how people meditate. So I think that sensitivity, if you realize, and again, so for example, when we were doing the initial industrial projects, there were horrible conditions in which the workers used to work. No natural light, ventilation poor, long hours, all of that. So I think in the first, we did a factory for Arvind Mills. They were manufacturing garments for the golfing line of Greg Norman. So they were selling at, the Harrods and the other places in London, New York. So we set 400 lux required at needle point and 400 darjis sitting in one hall and manufacturing that. So we said that why can't we get natural light and just make it a beautiful space for them. And simple shell roof, we got natural light on both the sides. And so a fantastic aesthetic solution. It improved the quality of workspace and the efficiency, and the workers were overjoyed. The ladies came and said that maza aa raha hai. So I think that is, if we like Hiren said, that if we have and retain that sensitivity in the design, I think that is where the balance automatically comes. The aesthetic is not something that you open a makeup ka dabba and apply the powder and the lipstick to the the contraption that you've created. The aesthetic will automatically emerge if you have done the whole putting together of the project in a sensitive manner. So I think that.
Okay. I want to please. No, not perfect.
What you were saying, so you were asking, what is it that connects these two kind of things? So it's actually, and I've been using this term a lot more now recently, and it's that mindgasm, right? So it's that feeling of, having learned something new each time you're creating. And this is our prerogative as designers. And every time, whether it is that challenge of using a satwari which maybe you've not got an opportunity to use, and that opportunity to be able to be contextually correct and use it correctly is that mindgasm which excites us. And every time there is a new challenge. Having not used, brick in the right way and then getting it right, That's the beauty.
Yeah, to sustain yourself, even creatively,
Yes.
you will be born every day afresh.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
somebody
actually.
said, every day I'm born in the skin of a donkey. So what I have in my pocket till yesterday is mine, but what do I get today? So it's also equally for you, and that anyways might be new for other as well. You know? That's it. I was going to take off for both of you. Now a little bit on the, but still on the patron side, having worked with the government projects and especially the larger urban scale projects, do you see some impediments coming in there where after some point you win the competition through the aesthetic part of it, but when it comes to nuts and bolts, does that take away certain crunch out of what you would have begun with, or since you both have done the large?
So, am I audible? Okay. So,
सिग्निफाई वाले सुनाई देता है कि मोबाइल में चल रहा है, मैसेज आ गया, ओके.
so
Anybody can interject in between also. Huh? We are all, it's a round table debate. It's not a product presentation. So please chip in.
So on
First
purpose.
person gets a toffee from their own table.
Okay, thank you, sir. So on purpose, we kept the government projects portfolio to a minimum in whatever we do.
That's a frank answer. Payment के हिसाब से कि दूसरे.
No, I'll tell you. Working on government projects is nothing less than a sadhana. It will test your equanimity, it will test your patience, it will test your ego, it will test your pockets, everything. And context also, because a single government project is almost like a university where you are the teacher.
Not a few.
So right from the bottom to the top, you got to understand the student's aspirations and teach him something which helps him.
Teach Bollywood in mathematics or something.
No, this is coming out of so much of pain. So in government, there is one thing which is predictable, is that everyone is. Thank you. So in working with the government, one thing which is constant is that everybody gives a damn to the project. Everybody is more concerned about what his boss is going to say. So that you figure out very initially. So then you know which are the persons who have little heart left and you attack there. And that is how you are able to do this sadhana successfully sometimes.
साधना बंद भी हो सकती है.
Sometimes. Most of the times it's an abortion. But that you never should give up hope, because so I will tell you a bit about it. So we have a firm called Urban Initiatives, which is, we call it a not-for-profit company, and it works for the city. So पहले से वो मोह ही नहीं है कि वहाँ से कुछ मिलने वाला है. Okay? So yes. So we don't take that firm is now we began in 2005 when this Gopi Talao thing started. Gopi Talao was handed over in 2015. Okay, so that is the time it took to do that. So when you take money out of it, your conscience becomes very strong, and there is a huge courage in when you deal with the government officers. And it helps. When they see your confidence, they actually start listening to you. And that is something which we feel which has helped us a lot.
Very good. So, is it samadhi or dharana for you?
No, my first experience on urban design was CG Road, like you mentioned, in 1995. And that was probably the first few experiences India had with urban design or street design. And through SEPT, 5 years, I had never taken urban design. I always opted for housing and institutions. So urban design was something. I think that over the years, as we learned to deal with urban design projects, I think the government also learned that without certain infrastructure projects, there was no way out for our cities, for our. I think the key was to find the champion on both sides, on the design side and on the government side. And I think that is what we first strived to find in and identify in any urban design project. So whether it was Kankriya Lake or Riverfront 1 or the Amochu Riverfront. The second thing is that a lot of times the projects are a result or a concoction of budget and some haphazardly put together requirements which you have to interpret, and then you have to reinterpret for them that, hey, this is what you've come to me with, but this is what you actually need, or the city actually needs. And that reinterpretation, if you learn to do it right and you find the right champion, then it is not so much of, and that is perhaps why the success ratio has been, so most of the urban design projects have been implemented. And also one must understand to pitch urban design projects, if you are able to identify the larger purpose of that project. So it's not just solving, beautifying the riverfront, but it is giving a place for the Ahmedabad citizens, for a place to enjoy, or something else. So that larger purpose helps, because again you're dealing with the politicians and the others. So wherever they feel the people are going to be impacted, so then it is easy for them to also find the budgets and find the mechanisms and the means to get all the signatures required for the files to move forward. So I think that is my biggest learning over these years. And in the last 10 years with HCP, I was mentoring urban design projects across India, outside India. So I think that it's not just the Indian story. So it's the story, and if I look back on my travels again, it's the story that the other countries have already passed through. So I think it's just that.
Well, because bigger projects tend to be a punching board for anybody and everybody, a pedestrian to more even important, how dangerous is the peer group, and then of course the bloggers too.
The only thing, last point I would like to add is that the only thing we've not yet mastered in the urban design is to how to get them executed easily with a convenience to the other to all the existing services and the city functioning and everything. And this in a larger scale project of the civil hospital, when in 2008 we started redeveloping the civil hospital Ahmedabad campus, 108 acres and more than 4 lakh square meters of built up area. The government came with a budget of 70 crores. And we said that you cannot even build one building that you need. So they made a 10-year plan, and the government understood that this is what was required. The designing was the easy part. The phasing to keep that hospital campus functional, where there was a 10,000 footfall of outpatients every day coming from not only Ahmedabad, Gujarat, Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh and all of that. That was the bigger challenge. So we attacked that first. The aesthetic was the easy part, the design was the easy part. So these are things that you need to be very, very aware about when you do, so it's not just the aesthetics and economics, also, phasing, and that also helps in both the economics and the aesthetics.
However, that please. Okay.
So, I think, we're feeding in a lot of things, So, I think the other bit where the economic really goes for a toss, or this general impression of any client, generally, even older clients, they come back, but they still say, budget escalations. Government projects, etc., clear design and BOQs are done, and say hi, mera bhi hi bolna.
Was it a clue?
So, clients, this budget outrun is a general phenomenon. When preset budgets are done, BOQs are done, etc., it may be kind of, done contracted. Now, the problem is what you were saying, which these impediments are also by the unknowns, which means that a design process has a certain process that you think you know of through years. And you are fulfilling a certain design aesthetic, right? And solving that design problem and reaching a certain path. But there are so many unknowns that come in even today, and which are your own idiosyncrasies, client user idiosyncrasy, services that were there and not accounted for. So cost overruns is another impediment which, where the economic takes over sometimes and certain compromises happen, like you were just mentioning about, and this happens with so many, and we advise so many interior architecture, building materials as well, from strategy and branding. And this is what happens, that some of these companies, as you see, they want to come in to become a selection at the earlier stage of the project, because they know that by the end of it, when they come in later, there's already a cost overrun. So, those are the things that get cut down. And another architect friend, he was just mentioning that for government projects and all, what they end up doing is that they do the washrooms last, right? So that's a necessity. You cannot change it. So even if the budget is not there, it is still going to be done in a decent manner, rather than cut down on the other bits.
And not compound one first. Yes. Otherwise, we run out of that. Please.
As you mentioned, that cost overrun, we are in such an industry, being in the lighting industry, I think the lighting is one of the products which has been selected at the last phase of the project. And every project, whether it is a mega project or a small project, we as a lighting vendor, we feel the pinch that what is being designed for, what is the value for that design, and what are the deliverables for the design. At the end of the day, when it turns into the overrun, that the compromise where happens. So being in this lighting industry, what we'll try to do and educate with the end user is that you have a design, fantastic design done by a best designer. Stick to the design and make your approach on a quality-based selection, not on purely on the economics part of it. So as an organization, as the other people are also doing in similar industries, we try to go and educate to the customer or the end user to go for a quality-based selection of vendors. There it plays a very important role, and also being a government customer, I think changes have started happening. It is not purely on the BOQ or on EPC mode, but changes are happening, and it is happening for good. We have Nimit Bhai sitting here, who is doing one of the mega projects which is happening in Delhi, where each and every selection of the product has been done on sample selection, how the effect will be, and what will be the final, what he thought about the design concept stage of the lighting. So if the end user is conscious enough and there is a process of quality based selection, I think still the design part can be addressed.
Yes.
When he's talking about lighting, obviously you're talking about quality. Now, so take lighting as an example. Within quality, there are two aspects. One is efficacy, in terms of what the light delivers. The other is longevity. Today, most of the branded products in the entire field, everywhere, is suffering because of so many unbranded products. Not that the unbranded products don't perform, but obviously they have lower costs of marketing, etc., etc. They're just kind of trying to penetrate the market. So they've got their other strategies to come in, and they hit the ones who already are established and have a certain level of trust, because the low-hanging fruit is very large and very, very low. So when that happens, it starts dismantling, those aspects, and suddenly that's where the economy comes in, right? Because you're compromising at a certain point. Sometimes you're not giving a chance to another aspect. And when you're saying timeless, and I think timeless in terms of is close to us in terms of what it does as an aesthetic. But timeless for Indians for a long time has been longevity. In terms of Dadaji ka furniture, aaj bhi wahi lakda use, But today I think those things are changing. And look at IKEA, best example of mass production, having answered design problem and aesthetic at another level.
Economics.
Another bit about IKEA is that when our age, at an earlier age, when we traveled out of the country, it was aspirational because it was only there. Today we know that it's always been an economical brand. Today, even if it is great aesthetics, yes, of course, people are using it. We're also, end up using it in bits and pieces. But nobody aspires to do a complete IKEA home. One of, the, builder friends, he was asking, he said, like, why don't you guys use it? I said, because we would love to. We would love to do, give us 10 houses. We make all 10 houses look different using the same furniture from IKEA. We have the ability to do it, but nobody wants it. Because it's like, what did you do?
Yeah, it's like finding a middle ground. Is Ghazal downgrading the classical or the typical part? So it's like that.
Yes.
Yeah. Please do.
Yeah, sorry. So when you're discussing about the longevity and the thing, an important point came to my mind, which I think is really very important to understand. That all the time we've been discussing aesthetics and its importance, but with so much of technology coming into our practice, and I still see a lot of resistance amongst the designers to really make an effort to understand performance. Because performance today is probably getting more important. Everybody wants to understand the life cycle cost of things, and there is of course the push and pull towards the green buildings or the green projects. But I still fail to understand why the HVAC engineers have to lead these kind of movements and not the architects. Whereas they are better equipped to actually deal with the situation in more of passive way as well as active way. But they just need to again make a little bit effort to collaborate with the engineers and actually make sense out of it, which the engineers alone won't be able to do that. So that is where I feel we need to move a little beyond the aesthetics and get into the performance.
What you say, just taking an example of lighting example, we all now started talking about human-centric lighting. Okay, pure engineer will not understand what is a human-centric lighting. The immediate questions which comes to mind, how much you are going to pay extra. But the thing is that human-centric lighting also plays a very important role on all the aspects which we talked about while designing, whether proper daylight is coming, whether daylight is not coming, what are the increase in productivity or the well-being of the people who are using the space. These are all intangible things which cannot be done on a simple ROI calculations. So I think a stage has come, at least in different fields, where the experiential part has to be valued for, which is not tangible right at this moment. If we can educate people on this intangible part of the experiential part of the aesthetic, then I think the simple people will be able to understand more.
Now, this point is, I think, very valid and gladly coming from the industry. The lighting and the temperature going with the body rhythm. So in the morning when we wake up, the sun is to be emulated accordingly, and therefore what Kelvin to use, versus in the afternoon when we want to be a little more energetic, etc. And the evening when we come back, and that's why you don't want to be fatigued by the blue light, and that's the worst light. That's why it's in disco. It keeps you awake, and that's why in mobile we keep doing that for hours together, because it doesn't let you rest. It's a very hyper light, etc. Yeah. Just last one pointer to each. When you said that there's a cost overrun and you have to negotiate maybe with architect or maybe with the client, would you say you have a second range which you could pick up from, or you said 2 fixtures less?
I started with saying that product positioning, but definitely government projects there is no scope, because the specification one written down into the tender you cannot change. So there is no question of giving into alternatives, and we all generally do not as an organization do that. But in private projects where tendering and other things are not there and customer is very, very sensitive, we may come up with a second range, highlighting that these are the differentiation and specification which is coming on, and you have to accept the specification. So that is how we
50,000 की साड़ी दिखानी होती है, बाद में 250 की भी है हमारे पास.
लोग 250 का मांगेगा तो 50 का फिर मांगा क्यों पहले?
Because if you were to do branding for me, What would you fake? How much do you fake to hide my punch? You can't even take a portrait because this won't help. So what do you come up with?
Actually, for this kind of advice and strategy, there is a fee. But this is Guru Dakshina, so I'll just give it just like that.
Make rush kar do. Exaggerate it, you can't hide, exaggerate.
So actually you answered it. So there are two things here, and which is a fact, that every time, we only think that people apparently know what they want or what they want to be. But actually, this is how we define branding also. That the project itself defines what it wishes to be. And that's how brands themselves aspire to become better brands. So it's the same thing. Either you're comfortable with yourself, you live with yourself, and you say, this is who I am, and I project myself the way I am. And the other is, if you're not happy with it, change it. It must change. So if not, then I'll give you Pilates instructor, yoga instructor, gym, diet control, all of it.
No, with food and no exercise. Anything is acceptable.
Again, so we come back to purpose, whether it is to feel better or look better.
All right. Viren bhai, would you like to be a painter or an architect?
Architect.
Not paint and then just make a show and let anybody take without being constrained and pinned up.
I'm happy to be an architect, yes. Being a painter is always good because the entire canvas is in your control. So that's the end results. Where as architect, you are like a painter, you create something, but your baby is in somebody's hand. And as you said, that has become very difficult with government or anybody else. So that's a little limitation, but still you get much more satisfaction to be an architect.
All right. Just advice to the people, would you like to promote Samadhi or a Dharna?
I think we should not take our profession too seriously. We are human beings first, and there are simple pleasures in so many things. And if we stop branding ourselves and looking at ourselves as a slave of the education that we've done for those 4 years or 5 years, you'll be much better off doing so many things in your life. That is how I'm looking at it.
And just one final point is that, again from the architect and the painter, inherently the roles are different. The painter is an individual and he has full freedom to express, himself. Architect, and this is for the young generation out there, is you must realize that the old image of, being the king and everything I say will be done is, it cannot be farther from the truth that all of us have realized, that we are the only person, we are not working alone. We are working with a bunch of professionals and, highly technical team. So we are the only person on the table sitting without a guidebook, coded provision, something that we can justify our choices by. So we are only playing the role of a coordinator, an integrator, where we are trying to balance out the, all the other disciplines to make sure that the project benefits at all times.
But who sits in the chairman's seat?
No, that's, it's not a position. I think it's a round table as far as, from my experience. And second is that you are also the only person, now on the positive side, the architect is the only person who is sitting without a specific purpose. The structure the guy has, कि भाई मेरा building खड़ा रहना चाहिए, फिर सरिया डाला हो गया, AC वाला guy is saying ठंडा होना चाहिए. You have a larger interest in the project, where you are saying, the column bhi hona chahiye, AC bhi hona chahiye, this, that. So I think that automatically puts you in a slightly elevated position. I don't mean it status-wise, but I think in the decision-making process-wise.
Okay, so it's the very last word. You still have a black hair, less gray hair, unless it's dyed. But what do you want to do now? Another CG road or one of the Viren bhai's client's house?
No, definitely something that has a larger purpose. I think that. Right now, what my firm focuses and we focus on is helping clients structure projects. So we do master planning projects, large industrial campuses, land management, all that. But a lot of times the clients are just, मेरे पास 30 acre land है, resort बनाना है. So we guide them that these are the things that you will need to put a resort or put a hospital. Things. I think that is where our comfort is.
All right, yeah. Exemplify while you're saying, I was just thinking that as children we used to see Superman, Spider-Man, but now it's all Avengers.
All right, so with that note, we conclude this session. A big round of applause for the points of view and things coming here. Thank you for being patient.
I would request all the speakers to wait back for felicitations. Meanwhile, I would like to call Mr. Viresh Mundu, Chief of Sales, ICA Pidilite, and Mr. Chandrasekhar Sawant, Zonal Sales Head, Bostik India, to the stage. Let us have a huge round of applause. Hiren Patel, founder Hiren Patel Architects.
Center one. That's right, great. Thank you so much. Thank you, Pandya Saab, for inviting me on. Thank you, ITP team, Saul ji, and everyone giving us an opportunity. I hope my voice is not echoing. It's okay? Yeah. So, who are we? Good question. That's why I'm here, right? We are Bostik. So, Bostik is a part of Arkema Group. How do I make this move ahead? Nothing moves ahead with me. I don't know, again I'll have to find it. So, we are a part of Arkema Group over here. Arkema is a French multinational located in Paris. About 141 production units globally. We are having a turnover of almost 10 billion euros in 2021. More than 20,000 employees across the globe in 55 countries, and we are one of the companies that invests almost 3% of our entire revenue into research and development. I can proudly say very few of them do that, and I'm not a mathematician, but you guys can evaluate the same thing. You guys are good at numbers, I'm not, right? As I said, Bostik over here globally is about 6,000 plus employees in more than 50 countries with a turnover of 3 billion and 4 R&D centers, exclusive R&D centers, and we are committed to sustainable developments. Globally, where we are placed and what are the shares of the market that we capture, including the US, the Europe, the Asia Pacific, and Africa. We have 2 manufacturing plants as far as India is concerned in Bangalore. We have a big manufacturing plant in Gujarat. We have regional offices in Bombay, Delhi, and Chennai, and warehouses, strategic locations across India to supply the material. If you look at what all things we make, ISO certified company for design, development, and manufacturing. We are into construction and consumer as a Bostik brand. We are into advanced packaging. We are into durable goods. We are into hygienic goods. So we have 4 verticals as far as the company is concerned. Today what I'm going to talk about is only construction and consumer. That's the focus. These are the different verticals I will pick up later. In construction and consumers, we have waterproofing solutions, walls and floors, industrial floor, and sealing and bonding. We had some wonderful debate on aesthetic and performance. I think few of them fit into the aesthetic portion and few of them will be in the performance portion. So if I talk of waterproofing over here, it may not be a direct aesthetic aspect to all you guys over there, but it's definitely performance which leads to your retention of the aesthetics, whatever you have planned. So,
That's my friend, that's a Gecko. That's our brand ambassador. Gecko has a wonderful story, don't count it. It's a part of question and answer. So Gecko has a tenacity to cling onto a surface 50 times more than its own self-weight. And that's where the adhesion part comes into. That's why I said that's our brand ambassador in our head office also. So in waterproofing, I said we have a lot of range, but I'll not take you through everything. But only for waterproofing over here, I'm talking of crystalline waterproofing, I'm talking of cementitious acrylic waterproofing coatings, I'm talking of pure acrylic coatings, I'm talking of food grade epoxy coatings which are used in huge water tanks that you have for storage of potable water. I'm talking of PU waterproofing systems, that's polyurethane. I'm talking of HDPE membranes which are used for basements, TPO membranes, polyurea coatings which are hybrid in nature, and hydro-swelling water stop bars. So in terms of crystalline, we have multiple product ranges, but I'll just quickly take you through the product ranges. I'll not take much time on this. So we have a waterproofing coating, which is a crystalline coating you can apply on your retaining walls or the basements that you are talking about. We have an admixture over here, which you can admix into the concrete when it comes to your site in a plant, in a batching, in your batching plant or in the RMC truck. That will give you waterproofing. We have very high elastomeric coating of cementitious, which is generally used for toilet, baths, balconies, refuge areas. There are two versions of this. Depends on the cost and the elongation properties that you are looking at. Then there he comes again. So, interestingly, all the product lines for waterproofing, they start with the word block, if you noticed it. So, block is sealant block. The next alphabet you can always relate to the C, or there will be a A. So, it's going to be a block C, block P, block A, block E. C is cementitious, A is acrylics, P is polyurethanes. So, it will be easier for people to know. Block P, that's a polyurethane. Block P, that's a polyurethane. So this is a polyurethane dispersion, water-based PU with about 300% elongations. Tested for UV for more than 2000 hours. Excellent tensile. That's about 700% elongation that you will have. So generally used for large landscapes, podiums. It has very good root resistant properties. You can use that for your flower beds, etc. Another two product lines, excellent. So block A is again acrylics that I'm talking to you. So this is an acrylic version, again UV resistant with about 1 mm thickness DFT. That is a around 150 microns DFT you can apply on vertical walls. So a general paint that you have is about 50-70 microns. This will be about 150-200 microns. So this doesn't fall in the paint category. It comes as a coating category. So generally this is prepared where you have sort of very heavy rainfalls. So I'm talking of something like closer to where is Lonavala, probably because I come from Bombay, so that's the closest thing. So a lot of bungalows and etc. They have on the walls also, they need a very high level of protection. Go for that. This is for the basements. So I'm talking of HDPE. So you have a lot of 2-layer, 3-layer basements coming up nowadays. All of you are designing extra deeper basements. So HDPE will give you an excellent protection to your raft as well as for the retaining wall. TPO is a thermoplastic membrane which is used for repairs and also for new construction. So that's another technology that can be adopted. So if you look at block X over here, so X is a different generic. It doesn't fall under acrylic, cementitious or polyurethane. So it's a new generic. Block X 970, again a new generic. We are talking of hybrid polyurea, which is spray applied, excellent tensile strength, elongation. So a lot of multi-level car parks. We are talking of very huge structure where there's going to be abrasion, and cars are going to move on. Go for that, and that's the primer for it. It's a complete system. This is like supplementary, I'm talking of food grade epoxy coatings, I'm talking of moisture seal, which is you can apply on damp surfaces, because a lot of epoxies, they do not bond when your concrete is damp. And generally what happens is, when you cure your concrete, the moisture doesn't evaporate, the moisture remains inside. Now if there is moisture inside, your epoxy is not going to bond, it's going to come out, it's going to peel off. So that's where it helps up. So that's our, in short, in a nutshell, the most, you can say, moving around product lines for waterproofing. You can look at a lot of projects that we have done in India, across Asia Pacific, in Indonesia, in Malaysia, in China. So we have already done a lot of projects for waterproofing in various segments. Shoba, Hyderabad International Airport, various airport stations. This is in Philippines. Why I'm showing this, you may say it's not related. It's definitely related. Philippines has, I don't know, number of hurricanes that hit Philippines. If you check it out, it's more than 200 hurricanes, if I'm not wrong, in 365 days. And this country has huge amount of rainfall. Absolutely, even greater than India we are talking about. Singapore, this is like sort of the multiple locations. We are talking of Malaysia's Prime Minister's office, cyber parks, lakefronts. We are very strong in Australia, in that part of the continent also. So basically, if you look at globally what we are talking about, it's a very established brand. For the last more than 100 years we are present here. Yeah, China, Indonesia, etc. Plus, as waterproofing, we can give you the entire specifications, technical submittals, application support at the site, because finally the person who is going to do the work and his labor, his person needs to be trained. So we are opening up a Bostik Training Academy in Bombay. There will be a full-fledged hands-on application training given to an entire team. They will come down to our academy and they will be trained in terms of the application for waterproofing. The entire idea is to reduce the flaws that happen in application. Product availability is there. We have our channel partners. They are in Ahmedabad as well. They are there at the stall. You can meet them. We have an excellent distribution network. And as I said, at the Bostik Academy, we are going to impart practical knowledge as well as hands-on application to reduce flaws. So I would request all of you, please do visit my team over there. Everyone is sitting. We will be more than honored to answer your queries. There are few products that are being kept on display for touch and feel. You can please feel the products, have a discussion with them for your projects or even for your future projects. I think that's an exchange of knowledge that will happen for all of us. So thank you very much. That's all from my side. Thanks Alicia.
To moderate the session once again and introduce the panelists, I would like to call Mr. Yatin Pandya to the stage again. Over to you, Mr. Pandya. Another round of applause, please.
Relatively younger and therefore a fresher perspective on this aspect. So we have a new set of presenters here on a similar topic. I would like to introduce them with some visuals and their work representation. Here, range of young professionals talking about their versions of what they do. We have Mr. Himanshu Patel, and interesting part of him, and that's something that would be a very different perspective. He has chosen to live in a family farm away from the glamour and glitz of the city, and he produces wonderful work with a very earthy material. And रोटी का तो जुगाड़ कर दिया, वहाँ पर खुद पकाते हैं. I hope मकान और कपड़ा भी मिल जाता है. So we will see his perception on this aspect, and he does beautiful work using the local materials and the kind of aesthetic that it derives, tasting the material to its limits, the very modest material palette, and yet creating exotic aesthetics. So that's a sampling of him, and it's also structurally significant. So it's as much a high-tech with a very low-key material, different scales and range, and with spiritual content. We have Karthik Bhai, and you would see that again he has a range of projects, but whether it's parametric coming in, whether it's a high technology coming in, again it's a journey in persuasion of aesthetic within the given economy, and economy as a value for money. So जितना डालोगे इतना मिलेगा. No, so it's not the cost of this art, it's what it gives you back in return. So that's the whole point. So we can't say it's X amount, but it's say the kind of feel. And we saw the lighting, what it could do in addition to enhance and yet perform. Including the housing. Ronak Bhai, and again it's a kind of it's in the genetics that is running through. Again, a range of projects coming from residences to larger projects. Fresh look at space making, integrating nature. The first essential experiments with scale, proportion, deriving the aesthetic through the natural processes of light and vegetation. And then we have Sfurna. Again, it's a husband-wife team. Also, rest of the family joins in to complete the whole group. And again, it's a very versatile one where they are trying to bring in music into architecture as well as architecture inspired out of music. So they actually have been using music as a center point for their own inspiration as well as show various rags to the client. Make them Tansen from Kansen, maybe. So you have, these are some of the examples of how they go about justifying what they do for the client, because clients पहले क्लाइंट को थोड़ा चक्कर आते हैं, सो थोड़ा और घुमा के बता देते हैं कि ये देखो इसके पीछे ये है, आपको ये राग शांत करेगा आपको, you know. So this is an example of what way this story goes, that each of the swara has its own translation into physical architectural subcomponent, and how the rhythm of this as placed. बरोबर आवडीच? चालेल से ना? Anybody is a classic music connoisseur, then correct me. So this is just a process that how all that, what is the inspiration, but eventually translates into physical reality with a very, very unique aesthetic, and aesthetic with a feel that we all have been talking about, that it's a frozen music. Here it literally comes down to that. And probably at night they sing also this waltz. दिवसे तो तारा दिखाई पर रात्रि का स्वर आता है. Just to say that how each swar aligns in the kind of rhythm to match that raga, that was the strings that was put before. This is one of the Achilles's, and then this is how it actually can be built and does get built. And it's also applied to the detail, like this, the clothesline shop at the top one is not the waste that you found from somewhere or somebody wrongly bent it. That's the kind of rhythm of the raga that comes in. So again, it's for the mood, and they have developed a number of ragas here, and from the installation to the crescents of the moon coming in particular rhythm, and application in different ways. So that's what we have. It's Purna, and we also have the industry representation here. When I saw this profile, of course, there is a lot to talk about. The gentleman is the Chief of Sales, Viresh Malhanji, and he represents what we saw in the video and also I won't repeat. But when I saw this Pidilite thing, and once again, what struck to me, which is again this whole idea that how our added value, which is what we do in architecture to aesthetic, helps in registering and therefore eventually the sale as a commercial venture. So I could not resist myself using the other brand of theirs, the Fevicol. I know they are right now, पर वो भी चिपक जाता है, इनका गेको भी चिपकता है, पर ये भी एकदम चिपक गया था. And I love this. So again, what creative aspect can add into endorsing not only the brand but helping the economics. So I thought this was a nice, fun, creative. So lage raho, let's have this. Okay, so if there's nothing from the audience, we'll keep asking in between, so don't feel shy. All right, so I'm not saying you just entered the profession, but without getting the kind of, samadhi and dharana kind of feelings. Does any of you feel you entered a wrong profession? No?
You would rather not even choose to be here then.
No, but I'm lage raho to hoy ne ke aaj din kale samay to પરિવર્તિત થવાનો જ છું.
હું ચોક્કસ બધાને એવું કહું છું કે આ પ્રોફેશન બધા માટે તો નથી એટલે દરેકને ન લેવું જોઈએ એવું હું ચોક્કસ કહું છું.
But is it because of the economic aspect or
no.
The one that pulls you down in aesthetics or તમારા સ્વપ્ના બધા?
Complete passion, and it's a big responsibility as an architect that you carry on your shoulder, and that love for the same and the deliverance, if it does not, you have to be completely into it, that it is to be your life in order to really become an architect and live and really contribute. So I say that don't do it if you are not passionate enough to really soak yourself or involve yourself completely into it. So બધાને એટલે ના નથી કહેતો કે કરવું જ જોઈએ.
No, but I think not to cut him off, just the all lovely, amazing words he has said. But other than that, of course, there's a core reality. If we don't love what we do, we should not be doing it. It's just that simple. But yes, there is a lot of to it as well as an interest. If someone is doing it, I think this is one of those jobs where there's like a maximum job satisfaction, and we are very happy by the end of the day whatever we've done.
Yeah, so the profession, the passion keeps you going, but बीबी बच्चों का भी ख्याल रखना होता है ना. So वो कहाँ से आता है?
No, so I think they also have started learning.
As they say, the astrologer, 3 साल तकलीफ होगी, फिर बाद में you'll get used to ऐसा.
So I think there's a good thing about this profession that you come through, seeing the examples of the past, and so you tell this stories to your own people that at age 50, Zahadid became successful. Till the age of 43, Daniel Lebeskin was supported by his wife, and then she became what she became. Louis Kahn and Frank Gehry, of course, 70s and odd. So you have to wait. Just give me some time.
With the time, it gives you opportunities that you look for, that encouragement, that push, that inspiration every day as you keep on going with the profession, with the practice.
All right. Okay. So, no, just that apart, to sort of kick off, you have been doing a very different model, both of architecture, of your aesthetics, of your endeavor, and sitting there you think that is fashionable? Would you recommend that to others? And what way do you enjoy that? I envy that, but
I'll start with the quote.
little louder, or maybe we can supplement the microphone. Yeah, there it is.
Am I audible?
Yes.
તો ગુજરાતી કહેવત છે કીડીને કણ અને હાથીને મણ. આ મળી રહે છે. સર્વાઈવલ ઇઝ નોટ અ પ્રોબ્લેમ. એટલે આપણે જે હમણાં વાત કરી રહ્યા હતા કે આર્કિટેક્ચર કરવું જોઈએ કે ના કરવું જોઈએ, અથવા અમારા રોટી કપડા મકાનની મહેનત થઈ જશે, વાઇફ શું કહેશે. પણ આઈ ગેસ સર્વાઈવલ ઇઝ નોટ અ પ્રોબ્લેમ. મેં હજુ સુધી નથી સાંભળ્યું કે કોઈ આર્કિટેક્ટ ભૂખના લીધે મરી ગયું હોય.
એ તો સેન્સર થઈ જાય છે, દબાઈ દીધા.
પણ કદાચ ડિપ્રેશનના લીધે મરી શકે.
સૂર્યને મણ ખાવું હોય છે, પછી બધા ડાયરિયા થઈ જાય.
એ જ પ્રોબ્લેમ છે. એટલે આઈ ગેસ
ડાયટિંગ કરે તો વાંધો નહીં. હું જોઉં છું.
એટલે આઈ ગેસ ડિબેટમાં મને આમાં થોડોક કદાચ સુધારો કરવા મળે ટાઇટલમાં, તો એસ્થેટિક વર્સિસ ઇકોનોમિકની જગ્યાએ આઈ વુડ પ્રિફર કે એથિક્સ વર્સિસ ઇકોનોમિક. So, so ethics is also, it is a big part of life. So now come back to aesthetic. તો એસ્થેટિકને આપણે પહેલા તો વોટ ઇઝ એસ્થેટિક એને થોડુંક કોઈએ હજુ સુધી મારા ખ્યાલથી એ ડેફિનેશનમાં નથી પડ્યું, કારણ કે જરૂર નથી. પણ when you want to talk about aesthetic or when you want to control, we need a definition. So let's say aesthetic ને એઝ એન આર્કિટેક્ટ કઈ રીતના જુએ. મારા ખ્યાલથી એસ્થેટિક દરેક વસ્તુમાં છે, whether it is beautiful or not. એ તો ઇન્ડિવિજ્યુઅલ પરસેપ્શન છે આપણું કે આપણે શું જોઈ રહ્યા છે. પણ એઝ એન આર્કિટેક્ટ આપણો રોલ શું છે? 10% only 10% of the building જે આર્કિટેક્ટ ડિઝાઇન કરે છે. વોટ અબાઉટ 90%? તો 90% બિલ્ડિંગ આર્કિટેક્ટ ડિઝાઇન નથી કરે, સો તું એમાં એસ્થેટિક નથી. એ ફંક્શનલ છે એટલે એ લોકો જાતે જ કરી નાખે. ગામડાના માણસને આર્કિટેક્ટની જરૂર નથી, એ જાતે બિલ્ડિંગ બનાવી લે છે. તો જ્યારે આપણને હાયર કરે એઝ એન આર્કિટેક્ટ, તો એમની શું એક્સપેક્ટેશન હોય? ફંક્શન તો છે જ, એ સાથે એમની એક્સપેક્ટેશન પછી આ પણ જોડાય છે કે એસ્થેટિકલી પણ કંઈક સારું બનાવે. અને આપણે એઝ એન આર્કિટેક્ટ શું વિચારીએ છીએ? ફંક્શન પણ હોવું જોઈએ પ્લસ એસ્થેટિક પણ. એટલે મારા ખ્યાલથી આ વર્સિસ વાળી તો વાત છે નહીં, આ બે વસ્તુ હોવી જોઈએ. પણ આની જોડે જોડે અત્યારે હાલ કરંટ સિચ્યુએશનમાં શું સૌથી વધારે નીડ છે? હિરેનભાઈને જેમ તમે ક્વેશ્ચન કર્યો કે પેઇન્ટિંગ વર્સિસ પેઇન્ટિંગ કે આર્કિટેક્ટ, બેમાંથી શું બનો? તો હિરેન સરે કહ્યું કે આર્કિટેક્ટ. મારા ખ્યાલથી એમણે બહુ સાચો જવાબ આપ્યો છે, પણ મને એવું લાગે છે કે આર્કિટેક્ટ હોવું જોઈએ. એની પાછળનું રીઝન છે કે એની સાથે રિસ્પોન્સિબિલિટી એડ થઈ છે. આર્ટિસ્ટ એની જે પણ બનાવે છે એમાં કોઈ નીડ નથી એની. સો તમે ગમે ત્યાં ગધેડું બનાવો, ગોળો બનાવો, કોઈ ફરક નથી પડતો. પણ જ્યારે એઝ એન આર્કિટેક્ટ તમે કોઈ પ્રોજેક્ટ બનાવો છો તો યુ હેવ લોટ ઓફ રિસ્પોન્સિબિલિટી, અને એ સમજવાની બહુ જરૂર છે. તો આજના કન્ટેક્સમાં, આજના ટાઈમમાં આપણી શું રિસ્પોન્સિબિલિટી છે? તો મને લાગે છે કે there is a global warming issues, so nowadays we all talk about green buildings, this that. તો એક જરૂરિયાત છે જેને આપણે એસ્થેટિક સાથે કઈ રીતના જોડીએ. વાય અવર બિલ્ડિંગ ઓલવેઝ એસ્થેટિક શોઝ, મે બી ઇન પાસ્ટ ઇટ શોઝ પાવર. જે આપણા પાર્લામેન્ટ્સ હોય કે કિંગના બિલ્ડિંગ્સ હતા તો પાવર દેખાડતું હતું. તો અત્યારનું એસ્થેટિક્સ એવું કેમ ના હોઈ શકે જે સેન્સિટિવિટી બતાવે કે આપણે ઇકોનોમિક આ બધા કન્સ્ટ્રેઇન જે અત્યારે ફેસ કરી રહ્યા છે એને એડ્રેસ કરવા જોઈએ, અને એવું આર્કિટેક્ચર ડેવલપ કરવું જોઈએ. સો મારો ખાલી એટલો જ ક્વેશ્ચન જ તમને પૂછું છું કે વોટ ઇઝ યોર પ્રાયોરિટી એઝ એન એસ્થેટિક? વોટ યુ વોન્ટ? અત્યારે ભૂખ લાગી રહી છે એટલે મને બીજું એક એક્ઝામ્પલ યાદ આવે છે કે ભૂખ્યા હોઈએ ત્યારે તમને ગાર્નિશિંગ વાળી પ્લેટ જોઈએ, ખાલી રોટી જોઈએ? વોટ યુ રિયલી વોન્ટ?
Right. So, what is your take? The full thali, the meal, because we see your beautiful designs. Have you, from the beginning, made the nature, artwork, and the dynamics of light and all that as part of your conception, or that evolves, that adds on. If they were not there, especially let's say the artifacts and whatnot, would it be any less? Would it be something, a cushion to match up the economics, or that would be always an integral part of what you conceive?
So as I started this process or the practice, what I felt is that now aesthetic has become a mandate. It is a necessity which comes with your project, with your product that you are designing. And it is followed with a system or process that you are going through. And with that process, you achieve to a final product or building, which is something that is pleasing to look at. That is the first sight of inception that all of us have, because your eyes are the first organ or the sense that makes that judgment or decision after looking at the product, that whether it is pleasing, is it acceptable, how good is it, how beautiful is it. That's how, with these questions, you start deriving to that product. And when you start integrating that outdoors, indoors, the interiors all together, this is where it adds to the drama, the light that we are talking about, the interior spaces, the quality of space, looking towards outside with the landscape coming in the house. That is where this drama gets added. Also, the one question that all of us face is, what the client will ask you is that, will it look good? Every day, there is this question which is every day. Whenever you have meeting with your clients, they ask you, will it look good? So that has become an integral part of the process. And that's how you get answers, you derive answers through that process or your design process when you go through it.
All right. To Viresh ji, branding yourself as Italian wood finish. Is that word Italian to talk about the upmarket aesthetic aspect? What does it connote with? Or
so thank you, Adinji. I'll just take 2 minutes on this. I'll just add to what you were saying before, and then also add to what he was saying. See, he said necessity. You can be happy in whatever scenario. Khana milega, thali milega, sundar milega, doesn't matter. Similarly, now when we talked about global warming, when we talked about if that is the need of the hour, if sustainability is the need of the hour, is there a price to economics? Is there a price to the aesthetic? See, obviously, now what my friend here said, that it has to look pleasing to the eye. First sense is visual whenever you look at anything. And the other part which he said, that if you've been hired as an architect, there's a responsibility to create something which is going to be pleasing to you. There is no reason something which is going to look ugly and you're going to be happy about it. Okay, somebody can call it a modern art, for somebody it is good looking and somebody it's not good looking. At the end of the day, anything which is getting designed, and I'm coming from a product and a brand perspective, if it is not going to serve the purpose of the work which the product has to do, which is the durability, all that part. But if it's not going to add value to the design of the architect, it's not going to add value to the requirement of the client. And there was a slide which you showed, $100 for so eventually all the clients are involved, right? So if all the clients are involved, obviously they also have their expectation of this house getting made, specifically when it's a couple-still house. And you will entertain them also, obviously, because then they are your clients. If you are my client, they are your client.
But yours is
yes.
Absolutely. You are an add-on. Are you making architects lazy that you can cover it up with your paneling and you do whatever?
No. See, that's good point. I think not lazy. The word Italian comes there for
hide their mistakes.
The purpose it comes is not enhance the design. You have designed something.
It's a ceiling pitch.
It has to look good. My product job is to make the design look the way you want it to get visualized, the way you want people to perceive it, look at it, feel it. So that's the job of brands actually. If the brands are not going to provide that service, they'll go wrong. I think you were talking about you can't exaggerate your brand by more than 10-15%. That's absolutely true. You can only say so much which a brand can not do. If you can say it's a Superman brand, it's not a Superman brand. So hygiene is the product which is going to perform and is the visual. And the Italian coming back to Italian is I can't put a price to someone's taste. I have to provide a product which is going to lead to the responsible being appointed as an architect at that site.
So Italian बोलने से NRI आएंगे, बाकी बाहर रह जाएंगे.
Design है, Italian technology. The other thing is if I can't give you a product, I can make a product here. But unfortunately, I don't have that technology to make a better product. That's why we got their technology in India, make in India. So we put our plant in Gujarat.
Okay.
It's the first wood finish Italian plant in the world which is outside Italy is in India. So that's the other part of economics, bringing the price down.
All right. Talking of, you said that, okay, everybody says that I want to look, it wants to be looking good and all that. Always when we say aesthetic, problem is not subjectivity, but with what perception, you know. So in that, does your client have to come prepared with riyaz before they come and meet you and to at least know a few ragas, or how do you get it across?
Firstly, I would want to clear this part that it is not only the musiclecture, of course, that really was the one inherent thing. The search for bringing in a design language that has come from our country, which has its origin, which has got its wisdom from this country's wisdom, and then really can make an appeal to the international, or else I would say world at a large. So whatever that goodness that lies in our wisdom, which we can really offer through design, which is rooted to our nation, was the thing that it all started with. And then, of course, music, since it was in our house, already we had this music school, of course, the one career of the music, she got admission into architecture in CEPT, in NID, she got into interiors. Anyway, so she was already good at drawing. So that understanding of translation of something that which is very, very intangible, to bring it into the tangible form, was something which she only could have done that, and she did it, and we took it forward. So it is just a constant dialogue of how really, but the bigger aspect was always that how our design rooted to our wisdom of our country, we can really bring about for the world to really.
So the point here is to many those who are practicing different tools, you know, when I say it's subjective in the sense what is in your mind, and it also needs to come out even to the team working on the project, to the masons, and of course to the client. So do you think the contemporary tools come in handy to be able to project what first you have in mind, that everybody at the same sync or in the same page of understanding, and then?
Yeah, you're right about that part, that what I feel is that the first is you only. When it comes to, then these are the tools. Like I'm really again, stories have been a main part of my nurturing, whatever. And like Zaha Hadid once was meeting with Frank Gehry, and Zaha, like Frank Gehry came and, do you know, Zaha, the way you design this particular software which the NASA scientists are using, I have started using it. It has helped me. Why don't you use it? It is going to help you the way you design. Now this is a story, and I'm telling you,
said that pencil is not what makes a difference, it's my
absolutely. Like it's you, your way, and then you start finding the right tools to make your way you want to represent easier. So these things will just help you. In fact, not only tools, people, everyone, like technology, like AI, it's a big thing now coming in, but I surely feel that humans, it is not, it can have many ideations, it can really come up with good things, but yet it is always the mind which is, it is you who are going to be ahead, that is for sure. Because
then how do you share what you have in your mind, because it's not conventional, so that somebody understands and says ke chalo pehlo advance check apiye, vandho nathi.
So now this is something very beautiful, and thereby when a client approaches, first of all, they don't approach to me. First is, they don't approach me. Now if they approach, they know that they are approaching me. Now this is very clear to them. Now since they are approaching me, they also know that they are not going to get anything right away, or else they can't expect any end result from me when they are approaching me. So the important point is that they approach with a clear mind that what will come is going to be a surprise for all of us. Yeah, absolutely. And 27 years of working now has established. We also tell them that, well, you pay, don't worry. I'm sure that my past experiences say to me that he is something important, something very, like, you will like it eventually. So that's going to end up there. Yeah.
And the chillo check happens.
પેલો ચેક આપે છેલ્લો ચેકમાં છે ને હવે મૈત્રી બહુ ઇમ્પોર્ટન્ટ રોલ પ્લે કરી રહી છે એન્ડ ધેટ્સ વેર આઈ ફીલ
તમે પાછા આપો છો
આખું જ એના જ હાથમાં હેન્ડલિંગ છે મને આપી દે છે જેટલું મારે ખાવા જેટલું જોઈએ ને એટલું મળી જાય છે.
What about you? You twist the column and all. It's very modest, very beautiful. But one, how do you tell your basin what that aesthetic component of that is going to be? And how do you say the client? Does client start getting the doubts and worries?
See, right now I'm projecting my, you have called me just because of for a project, but I think my, real heroes are my craftsmen. Now, why they are able to do such kind of crafting? Because, I give them this freedom of, making some experiment, as well as at the end of the day, they can also take a proud of what they have done. So, એટલે સાંજ પડે ને તો એ લોકો ફોટા પાડીને એમના ઘરે મોકલે કે આજે અમે આવું બનાવ્યું. મારા ખ્યાલથી આ એક આનંદની ખૂબ જ જરૂર છે આપણા કામમાં. બ્રિક વર્ક હું જોયું એટલું ખરાબ થઈ રહ્યું હોય જ્યાં પણ આપણે આમાં આંગળી મૂકીએ ને તો મોર્ટારથી આમ જતું રહે. લોકો કેમ આટલું ખરાબ? તો કે સાહેબ કાલે પ્લાસ્ટર થઈ જવાનું છે આના ઉપર, દેખાવાનું છે જ નહીં. પ્લાસ્ટર પણ એટલું ખરાબ તો કે લાપીમાં થઈ જશે ફિનિશિંગ, લાપી પણ ખરાબ, કલર વાળો કરશે. પછી 19-20 તો હોય. હા, 19-20 તો હોય. એટલે છેલ્લે સુધી એમાં વર્કમેનશીપ આવે જ નહીં, કારણ કે એમને કોઈ એ જે કામ કરે છે એમાં કોઈ પ્રાઇડ ફીલ થતું જ નથી. એટલે વી શુડ ગીવ
Your approach of work, is it more a site-based kind of decision making, or you do make drawings and simulations?
It was earlier when I had only 1 or 2 projects. Now we have few projects, so we are also trying to figure out how we can manage at the same time from office only. So it's both way, but so many ideas we generate on site and with discussion with craftsmen and all.
Right. Contrary to that, you've been at ease using the modern tools. You think it has helped you conceive the aesthetics, although as a tool? So basically it's you, but you think has that tool been an important dimension of bringing out what you would have wanted in your mind?
So I think one of the very key important aspect which I have been very strongly following is that from the process where it begins to the end is quite a long span. In any of the profession we take, none of the profession is where we have to stick to the same subject for 2 years, 3 years period of time. Quite a lot of things change, quite a lot of requirements may change. During that time, what we need to stick to is what we have actually envisioned in the beginning of the process to the end of the process. Now having that idea very clear in the beginning, we would want to actually innovate something which would really be something new, where we want to try and experiment with a solution which could really give further solutions to both. So then at that moment what happens is that process becomes so important, and during that time we try to deliver something which has really been an innovative solution. The softwares, yes, they help a lot, but at the same time, the context is something which we strongly feel is also very important. So these two aspects, we try to work together and then try to figure out a solution which would really be able to provide that solution. So I think that time factor also is very, very importantly we take a note of.
you said that the client wants how it's going to look. What are your tools of sort of letting him feel, not just visually look, what you have in mind? Like how would you simulate the shadow pattern of the sun?
Aesthetics is also one of the driving force of the design. And when you show those bold yet simple visuals to a client, or you share your dreams in whatever forms that you are expressing to a client, that leaves that impact or that timeless impact in the mind, which sort of connects to that design or that process or that product that you are expressing. And that's how they get along. They go along with the design. So that becomes the important driving force for the design. It is, and with economics, I would put efficient word rather than economics, so that in given time and money, in given time and money, and without wasting the materials and resources, are we making it efficient and beautiful, efficient and aesthetical? Then I think that's what your client is looking for, or that's the time that we want to deliver our design.
Yeah, so economics is not about spending less, but it's about getting most of what you spend.
Yes.
All right. So if this Italian was to be converted into Indian, what are the kind of layers that you think could be strengthened? So what are the ones missing, what we get from that 55 country experience but not India?
Yeah. So we've already converted to Indian. That's why we become more economical now, because we put up a factory in India. That's economies of scale, getting the best back out of it.
Okay.
But at the same time, there are certain things. For example, I'll just take an example of an architect in Bombay without naming him. Like you said, if you have designed something in mind, but the solution is costing way too much for a client or for yourself also. But if it is not resulting in what you wanted, you are ready to pay anything for it. So for example, there was a finish which is not available in India. That finish is a unique finish with us, and it's actually a very costly finish. The cost to import it by air was 5 times the product cost. He said, nothing doing, I'm not charging to the client, give it for me because my design is not going to look well. So even if I want to bring the trades down, but I cannot make a bad product. Product cannot compromise. That's the hygiene. I cannot promise something which is not going to deliver. So make it Italian, make it Indian. It has to provide the durability first, the purpose of it first, and till the time it's not giving the design solution.
But like Philip says that there is a range. So do you have 250 rupees
Yes.
sari?
So that's again like Philip, the signified person said, that they very clearly define that this product is not going to deliver these things. So obviously there are clients which make mass products, the factories which make, for example, IKEA is a client. There's a finish which we provide to them which is far more inferior to what somebody who's making a customized house or a particular finish they want. But we don't promote it. That's a B2B product that goes, the process is clear, it's not going to last, the chipping will maybe 3 to 4 years. It's not going to give you that same sheen, same effect for 10, 15 years to come. It's not going to make you feel wow about your house for so many years. That's why IKEA customers are mostly rentals. People who move houses again and again. So those are the customers. We have an Indian range, which we provide largely to our B2B customers.
Imagine I have one more thing to mention here. Like, if we talk about our own context, the kind of work which is happening here, we have to also look at the amount of customization is actually happening. So from what he is doing to what I am doing, everyone having different approach and everyone having different clientele, everyone having different requirements, and then they all need to be taken care of. Now just trying to understand how a company is actually bringing a solution which could cater to all, or which could cater to something which is very specific, is very interesting to even look at.
So I'll just try to answer that because that's a question which we've been getting a lot for the last 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
And the amount of work in India which is happening in design space, I think is second to none now. India is anyway coming out as a design hub, especially in the architectural field. So we have changed our approach as an organization from a product first to a solution first company. We were earlier making products which we thought were providing a particular solution. Now we're working with a lot of designers to understand what solutions they need, or what, for example, a craftsman. In the time a carpenter or a mason or a applicator कोई problem आ रहा है, उसकी क्या problem है, and वो कई बार architect ज़्यादा बता पाता है उससे, because वो बोल नहीं पाता. He is not able to articulate his issue. So we work a lot with them. We have put up somewhere around 32 spray booths which are working as technical centers, where these experienced painters comes to us with their problem. We figure out what is to be done. We go back to a plant and make custom solutions. So that is where the economics don't work out at times. That is where you also create something which is very specific to a particular architect, a particular solution. Once it is done, then obviously the example of Will's life store. He made a store which was 6,000 rupees a square feet cost, and then you made a replica. You made something which looks alike. So we also do that. We create a solution and then we make it a lookalike sort of a thing.
All right, I'm sure you have your name established, and also I'm not saying that you're new to the entrant, but maybe more earlier than the others having come out of the school. What aspect you think you were not taught, or you would have liked it to be included, whether it's the aesthetic part you thought you learned on your own more, or is it the economics part of it?
Can I just go ahead and answer this question?
Please.
I'm quite excited to cover this part, because I just happen to remember that when it happens to be economics, I was the one who failed, as in when economics was introduced as a part of curriculum. I was someone who could not relate to why economics is being taught in architecture. But yes, over the period of time when we actually sustained since last few years, we could very well understand that it's really very important part, making things work within certain parameters, and then make sure that it really is an important solution which lasts long and not a temporary solution. Economics does come into the picture, and that is something which we now have understood, maybe with a period of time.
So with every client and every this thing. Yeah. There is a humor that in a school the inspector came and asked as a test one student, how much is 19 into 5? And he says 85, and the teacher pats him, excellent, sit down. This is 19 into 5, 85? So no, till yesterday he was saying 75, so there is a chance that next year he would say 95. So you learn like that. So you have got 95 now?
No, we are 105.
Oh, that's very good. So, you know, when your client, okay, you can say that, is it the, do you think, any BCD teacher approved of your rotated column before, or was it just a thing, bata dunga unko bhi?
If we'll talk about education system, nowadays there are a lot of things we need to incorporate. So I am sure, we don't want to get into it, because then, so many things, and if there are students, but then, we, after coming out from the college, I have tried a lot of things, and then not to learn, but to unlearn what I have learned from my college, right? It takes a lot of time to forget what they have, instilled. Out of the box, do something out of the box and these, that. But then, so, then, you start understanding economics. सबसे पहले वहाँ से शुरू होता है कि पैसे चाहिए पहले तो, है ना? तो प्रैक्टिस में सबसे पहला वही, कोई ये नहीं बाहर निकल के बोलता मुझे बहुत अच्छे बिल्डिंग बनाना है, क्योंकि वो अगर बोल रहा है तो एक हफ्ते में वो इस पे आ जाएगा कि ब्रेड एंड बटर चीज क्या करेगा। तो ब्रेड एंड बटर का मैं जहाँ प्रैक्टिस कर रहा हूँ, नो वेंडर कम्स, द बेस्ट पार्ट ऑफ बीइंग देयर। हाँ, तो ये अभी आज मैं पहली बार इतने वेंडर्स का ये काम देख रहा हूँ। और the thing is कि I never want all these things to utilize in my project.
They will give you a brick finished wood.
तो मुझे लग रहा है कि कहीं ना कहीं they are setting the parameters of our aesthetics. हमको पता ही नहीं है कि हमको सही में चाहिए कि नहीं, पर सब ये है हमारे पास, try this.
आजकल फॉक चल रहा है।
That is like an aesthetical trial.
Sorry? Yeah, that will be it.
हाँ,
firstly, very good observation in the way that you are working. But don't you think from the other side, probably looking from your side, you let me in my own world, and all these great brands, whatever they're doing, I don't need them. But how do you feel at this moment with the gentleman sitting and giving that designer's dream? So कई बार ये होता है कि मैं अपने इसमें बैठे हूँ, and I think this the world is around me, and that's the way I want to see the world. But what do you see at this moment when you see great brands doing some excellent work, coming as partners to your dream, not selling but telling you, that listen, we will help you in aesthetics as well as economics. What's your thought and what are you going through right now? An honest answer.
गांव का बेटा चक्को चाट में आया है तो क्या
मतलब सर इन पर ही हो रहा है, इतने अच्छे अच्छे सॉल्यूशंस हैं।
तो देखो सब ट्रू। सबसे पहली बात तो सर मेरे पास जो क्लाइंट्स है ना मेरे, या इट्स ओके यू कीप इट विद यू। तो मेरे पास जो क्लाइंट है वो एक्चुअली आम आदमी वो वाले क्लाइंट आते हैं। तो what they're saying is that maybe it's not that it's wrong to work with आम आदमी, but आम आदमी की एस्पिरेशन हुई कि इटालियन बनना है हमें, पिज्जा खाते आजकल, तो फिर थाली से पिज्जा ले जाने के लिए उनकी एक टाइल लगाने में कोई प्रॉब्लम, वहाँ रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी हमारी है कि उसको समझाना चाहिए कि उसकी जरूरत नहीं है। सी डिजायर इज समथिंग कि हाँ वो कुछ भी हो सकता है। क्लाइंट अगर आपके पास आएगा और वो कुछ भी डिमांड करेगा तो एज एन आर्किटेक्ट यू शुड एजुकेट हिम कि ये सही है ये गलत है, यू शुड डू दिस यू शुड नॉट डू दिस। तो ये रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी ये है हमारी एज ए फ्रेटर्निटी। अब मेरे पास कोई क्लाइंट ऐसा आया ही नहीं है जिसने मुझे बोला है कि इतने सारे पैसे जो बनाना है बनाओ। तो मेरा सबसे पहला प्रोसेस वहीं से शुरू होता है कि उन्होंने एक लिमिटेड बजट दिया है, अब उसमें एज एन आर्किटेक्ट मुझे फंक्शन तो बिठानी है, साथ में एस्थेटिक भी बिठाना है, क्योंकि बोथ आर इम्पोर्टेंट। तो मेरा जर्नी वहां से शुरू होता है। जब तक वो प्रोजेक्ट का बजट एंड होता है, प्रोजेक्ट एंड होता है, तब तक ना तो मुझे इसमें से कोई ब्रांड की जरूरत पड़ती है, टू बी ऑनेस्ट, यू नो, नो ऑफेंस, बट किसी भी ब्रांड की जरूरत नहीं है, क्योंकि एक्चुअली ये जरूरत वाली कोई चीज नहीं है। फॉर एन एग्जांपल एज ए वाटर प्रूफिंग, नो ऑफेंस अगेन, पर वाटर प्रूफिंग क्यों हमको चाहिए? क्योंकि हमारे सारे टेरेसेस बॉक्स है, यू नो, स्लोपिंग रूफ है, तो मेरे ख्याल से 90% प्रॉब्लम इज सॉल्व। We are making flat roofs again with the parapets, concrete sloping roof leak the most. हाँ वो तो और बेटर, मतलब वो इसलिए कि वापस हमको इमिटेशन करना है। तो if we stick to our, you know, if we try to learn from our past, तो मेरे ख्याल से you know all this vernacular architecture has all the answers of our all the problems, most of the problems. और जहाँ नहीं है वहाँ शायद 21st century का कुछ भी हम एडवांस टेक्नोलॉजी को you know रिसर्च को ऐड करके we can find out the solution. So I guess for you know just one question to everyone. यहाँ से कहीं पे भी जर्नी के लिए जाना है, आपको प्लेन में जाना है, कितने लोग बिजनेस क्लास में जाते हैं? सब लोग इकोनॉमिकल। आई एम श्योर अगर कोई जा रहा है तो प्लीज यू नो रेज द हैंड, क्योंकि वी इंडियंस नो कि जब तक इकोनॉमिकल क्लास में टिकट मिल रही है हम उसमें ही प्रीफर करेंगे। वी डोंट वांट बिजनेस क्लास। एग्जैक्टली, चाहना है, पर मैं वही बोल रहा हूँ कि डिजायर इज समथिंग। डिजायर करने में कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं, बड़े सपने देखने में भी कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं, पर रियलिटी को समझना बहुत जरूरी है। और मेरे ख्याल से कहीं ना कहीं हम सबको मालूम है वो रियलिटी, एंड वी आर वर्किंग विद दैट ओनली।
I think there is something which is really missed out in this whole conversation is the scale. There are different scales of building, there are different scales of construction, and there are different requirements coming out when the MNC is coming, when there is a bulk production happening, when there are multi-millionaires bringing in a lot of money, they are willing to, they're going to make thousands of people work under the same umbrella, same roof, and we are building something which is really catering to different requirements. All the aspects change. When the scale changes, all the requirements immediately change. When we are building something which is multi-storied building, of course, none of the sloping roofs are going to come into the picture. But at the same time, if you're doing something which is only ground structure, might as well, when we have plenty of land as a resource, we may not build high-rise structures, but then again, as I said, the scale of the project, the requirements really will be something which would change the whole drive.
No, the point is, see, you can't replicate one to the other. That's not the point. Nobody's advocating one technology to the other. Point is an approach. And in an approach, what way do you derive your aesthetic vis-a-vis the given kind of economic range? So it's in that, because what happens when you say aspirations or whatever, there was a time where we used to be happy or boast about the pager. Then came cheap mobile. That time the fancy was that I'm a BlackBerry boy. Then came the iPhone. And now that everybody has iPhone, the fashionable thing is to say, oh, I don't use the mobile, So maybe he's already gone up to that and he say, I don't use the mobile,
He was saying also.
But at the same time, what I believe, जो आज का जो topic है aesthetic and this also economy, there is a very faint line between required beautification or what you call aesthetic, and there is a very faint line between a lali lipstick or a cosmetic beauty. So what is required minimum, what is required for? Or still everybody is having very own perception, very personalized thinking. Let's say if I go to him, he will be saying, no, it should be a Ragam conversation. If I go to him, he will say, no, it should be a very colonial way, very vernacular way. At the same time, somebody else, he is good with technology or techno-savvy, and he will be talking about, no, it should be like something like this. So it is ultimately, aesthetic is like what I am having in my mind, and the client is coming to who? जो जिसको रागा से गाँव है, he will go to him. He will not come to me because he is knowing I am all in that case. So he will not pick up into me. और मैं उसको देखे, उसको सिखा के कि भाई ये रागा है, करके मैं बिल्डिंग बनाऊँ, will be again a flop shoot. So what is a myth called aesthetic? और वाकई में what is the real beauty? That is very personalized thinking.
No, see,
we said column में real beauty लगी, और मेरे को लगेगा नहीं यार, why waste money? What you need is like minimum this thing.
Yeah, I mean, you're saying that beauty lies in the eye of the beholder, but there are certain kind of, we've been all taught that what is the humanly universal aspect of what we say beauty, and that's why we say it's not lali lipstick, it's what inherently emerges out of that. And everybody's approach has taken it through their way of working, through their processes. So it's not that final outcome as the predetermined form, but it's the process that governs that. And so one, it is their own prop, that eventually to reach that goal, I take this path versus somebody takes, and that's what everybody does, no? That's why I'm saying every architect also got their identity using certain path and approaches. So the point is that doesn't matter what approach you take, these two are the anchors that kind of one balances out and second aspires to reach up to certain points. So in the name of aesthetic, you don't pull your aspirations or your processes down, and in the name of aspirations, you don't make it egocentric. It doesn't even get realized, It's like temple architecture, and today in the name of thing, if you strip down onto certain kinds of what somebody would consider filigree, but that is the sort of soul as well, because that prepares you to be in certain mind frames. A concrete column ka temple, if I abstract it, is incomplete for its expected end, so to say. It's not aesthetic, but it's the layer that is missing. Okay, so there if I do bindi, it's not only cosmetic and look, but there are loaded overtones to that. So sometimes, bearing it, so it's not personal, it's a communicable aspect, and I'm extending that. So I think all these approaches have been showing different ways in which to bring it to one level of its benchmark,
I agree with you, but this is the point, very little difference in words. The time you say instead of making things out of like, I'm getting things more in temperature, right? Now, client doesn't have money, that much money, but at the same time, he wants to really build a temple. So I will not make it like a temple in a very modern way, number one. Number two, I will definitely see what is the affordability of the client, that is number one. Number two, what are his intention for? He really want to show it as here I am, that I was structure, or what structure is needed for this society. So in that case, I may go for concrete building with the cladding of stone.
No, that's fine, but why stone also? It could have ended. But that's exactly what I'm saying. It's each one seeing, that subject better, so you say that it should end with this. So even stone is an extra layer that you're putting, not bare concrete would make it complete in terms of its feel of. And not only that, if you can't have deep carving, there is an alternative. You might even make it in FR, whatever, concrete too, but without that motif, it won't be complete. So what I'm saying is that for each, there is an expected benchmark. Without that, not aesthetic, but the feel won't come through. Yeah. Yeah. Because sometimes I feel that economics is more subjective. I'm sure Ambani doesn't go on just spending anything on anything, So, but aesthetic is something that people may agree to more than the economics, because economics is very subjective. The client who comes says, I don't have much money, but at the end he will go and buy Italian marble, that Sacchario for 1200 rupees. But when it came to certain things, he would say, nahi, mere paas to bahut kam hai, So people have that kind of, so that's more variable than what they all agree that it's a nice product or outcome. Right.
It is very relative. The economy part that we are discussing here, because economy here in Ahmedabad, let's say we are doing this design versus in Mumbai, the definition of economy changes, because that's another scale, another city, another prices altogether that we are versus economy that he is expressing, his projects or his design approach. But at the same time, I cannot limit myself or client with the given parameters. When we are creating something new, when we are designing something new, some spaces for a client, any type of project, it has to be done justice in a way where you are extending your client's requirements or his expectations or his lifestyle, be it an office, commercial space or house or whatever. So that part is very important. There I cannot stick to economy saying that this is the desired thing that we can have. But you have to go a step ahead for that new space or the new...
what you thought in academics was something that you had to...
Yeah, I wanted to express this part that there is a very important principle written in the...
If I could interrupt, last 10 minutes, if we could wrap it up.
10 minutes, okay.
Yeah. So there is a very important principle that has been given by Yama and Nachiket. Rather, I'm just confusing. Mandodari's father. Okay. So who built the Lanka, and at the same time he also did, and he is the one who is the reason Maya. I am talking about Maya, the one who has written the Maya Mattam also. In this there is a beautiful principle, the Vastu principles that have been laid, and there are three things that he has been talking about. And the first part is Bhogadyam. The second is the Sukha Darshanam. Now, Bhogadyam is equal to, in our present times, it is functional. Sukha Darshanam, that is, which is visually, or that can be understood with these five senses and can be appreciated. Mostly, Sukha Darshanam is the visual part of it. But the third part, that is the Ramyam part of it, that which is beauty, goes to the delight, because the eventual aspect of everything that we do is to bring about the delight, that experience, which is unthought of, unexperienced of, or else rather to go eventually into the same experience in the temple, since we are talking, and to reach to that epitome of that experience of really reaching that space or that.
Some Brahman Sutra also says that eventually this thing is when architect proclaims, oh, how I did it, kind of a wonder. But even the Firan version is that Vitruvian three dictums, and in that order, utilitas, utility first, firmitas, the strength, and then the venustas, the beauty,
Absolutely.
So if you were to start a class for architecture, what aspects would you like to have them teach? So, learn rather, because you say that when you come and negotiate, then a lot of things probably they may not have grappled and whatnot. So what is your course that you want to have to fit into your...
You asked the question first. Where you learned architecture, learned business, and he said I failed economics, and I understood why. So I would say all business schools also don't teach business. They just teach concepts.
Yes.
So all of them need to unlearn that. So even when I got into this business, I unlearned everything what I knew about the previous business. So I think the first thing which I think we're finding more and more with a lot of young architects getting into business. Everyone is very aware. It's not the same all the time. I think awareness is much more about the fund management. It is much, much more. But I think still the concept of planning, I think because that's where it gets lost, where we, like the lighting company said, they come in last and they feel the pinch. Same thing happens. A lot of aesthetic companies, what happens is the cost is never accounted for. Everything, the patthar aa jata hai, बहुत महंगा लग चुका होता है. By the time it's not for serving any purpose, whether you take a Katni marble or you take an Italian marble, at the end of the day they all look very similar. It's only that मैंने लगाया है सितारियों बोलने वाली बात है. So that planning part is something which a lot of brands wants to work with designers on. Let's put that plan on paper. Whether the customer, like you said, a lot of things are not needed. Absolutely right. A lot of places, a lot of things are not needed. It's the perception. It is like you said, aesthetic is subjective. What journey that person is in personal life, what journey he is on his financial level, what journey he is right now at, all that matters. So even if he is like in money, he's not going to spend endlessly, right? He needs a plan. So that's where I think a lot of time, I think a client in architecture gets into another. There is a plan which is given, then the plan keeps changing and that clarity gets missed. So how can that bridge and give absolute clarity where your project is this, it's going to look like this, the funds is going to be somewhere around this pool. And not 19-20 chalega, but 20 बोल के 40 लग जाएगा, that's the
20-25 नहीं. Sorry, just last quick questions. Question in the sense, having reflected, you have all made your own niche, your own kind of version of architectural output. What do you think client is looking for you, in your work, when they come to you for a project, that is? Is it the brick? Is it the nature? Is this aspect of aesthetic is what I'm asking. In the aesthetic and economic part only I'm saying. Is it the cost economy? Because they come to you, they know that you will be in X range? Or is it the style?
It's a Sastava Sitpurni Yatra.
All right. So Sitpur is what for them?
Aesthetic.
Aesthetics. So that is also an aesthetic that sells. Yes. All right. Okay. What do you think they come to you for? So as I said, only Tansens come, or why music?
By my stories, I don't know. My passion for whatever work that I do, eventually they end up.
Till they come, they don't know your stories. So you have a propaganda machine that first puts out.
I don't know. That is also one of the most important part is that we understand that things are run by us. Things happen.
All right.
So this is the nature. It has to happen. It is conspiring whatever it is doing, and I am accepting. I am just being by the flow. Nothing else. I don't know why I was called over here. I don't know. It just happens.
So when you say that when anybody comes to you, you don't know the end. It's a journey.
Absolutely.
So at the end of the journey, the client keeps looking at his pocket, or
no, we somehow found that that there is this expectation that we also feel that it's going to cost high, but we end up spending quite less and delivering that which is
to us. So with the Indigo timing, they say 1 hour, 10 minutes from the beginning, and then actually it's 50 minutes, and they say we are in time.
Maybe that is a good way of really taking, but
no, because your design, I don't think you can change in between. Can you?
It's a very, it is somehow, it is always that what it should be, that is what we design. What it should be to me, in fact, the site only we go and pray and ask them that which you want to become, just let me be the medium. So the inspirations, I take it that way, that they come to us and then we make that, and then we really try to really come up with, I don't know, things work.
Okay, so the clients also say, Swami Kalafi.
Absolutely. In my family they do that because of the kind of dressing and everything also.
Right. So what do you think? What they look at your other work and come, you think, in your analysis, or it's the kind of way you bring in technology and the materiality, or is it?
So it is both. I think with our past years of practice, with the kind of transparency we could build and the efficiency we could bring on the board while we are actually giving them the solution based on the client-centric requirements, not trying to impose anything what should be or what must be built, but rather than trying to understand what exactly do they need, because that is the ultimate goal of providing a solution to what actually.
What kind of building type you have liked so far to be part of for your creative sojourn?
So, I personally have been very much inclined towards institutional architecture. I really like the way it actually has that impact on you being around in that space.
But this, I'm not asking everyone for the shortage of time, but quite often happens that in a residence you're directly dealing with the end user, and that's where even if the demand or the negotiation come, they're on realistic plane.
Yeah.
But why do we have to blame developer on certain count is that he's making decision on behalf of someone which doesn't concern him. The management person in an institute would come and say, "Yaar, choti window chalegi, aur ye to aisa hi hona chahiye." But it's not him putting himself into this,
Yes.
So somewhere there is a little bit of a
compromise.
Yeah, no, and a kind of a inclined, a skewed view onto really what we can say the client's needs and what not, Your client, when it comes to you, do you say keep 15% aside, we'll do a complete job, we will choose the artifact, we will have the landscape, without that our vision is not complete? Or does that happen that after a bare finish, they may try and kind of negotiate, bhaiya thoda kahin to vyaj bhi karo?
I think it's the entire process or the journey that we go through, keeping in mind, those points or those parameters that are helpful to achieve that end product. And as we discussed, that how the end product can be done in a proper manner. So it is only with that continuous interaction, I think, that's what makes the houses or the villas more efficient or more
Experientially rich,
to both to architects and the users as well.
So aesthetics is not just a beauty to behold, but it's experience to feel. It should touch within, Last, which of this firm you will send your sales representative tomorrow?
You got to figure out everything now. What can you do? And whether it converts or not converts, we understand what is happening.
Doesn't matter. There's a time span. All right. Any question from the? Yes, please. We're delaying everybody's dinner. No, so quick.
I have a question both the teams, like designers, architects, and the other who are producing different materials and products. So basically, we are talking about people who are living in big cities, like 5% people who afford an architect, who can afford
Hafle or any other material. Okay, we are not talking about
learned Hafle or something.
Hafle, sorry. We are not talking about 95% people of India. Okay, so everything when we talk about aesthetics and economics, so we have to include
those 95% of
See,
people,
because we are not
we're talking about urban planning.
I get what you're saying, but for example, a Dehati nowadays gets Tata Steel corrugated roof, while he as an architect is giving them another Thatcher version. So it's give and takes. It's not, but we're talking about as an architect, what has been our approach. And yes, in order to cater to that 95 our services can reach, and that's why there are different models. He would say that we precasting and PTH, the way they are doing the so-called affordable homes, turning the shacks into 14-story walk-ups with those technology, and that's affordable to one perception. And others say that I'll make 100 craftsmen do 100 houses, and that's also one approach and all. So
सर रिवर फ्रंट बनता है पर कोई गांव में वो लेक के पास बैठने वाले लोगों को नहीं सोचता. मतलब डिजाइन अप्रोच टुवर्ड्स लाइक एज अ आर्किटेक्ट एज वेल एज वो lighting solution.
So sorry to interrupt, but could we say this one more?
Everybody is getting restless about the desert because desert थोड़े टाइम के लिए वरना पिघलने वाला है. So ठंडा होगा चलेगा पर desert पिघल जाएगा. So as a good Ahmedabadi, we have to see it's a complete course. One more last question. Yes.
But a quick pointed one, not a discussion, please.
You can say thank you.
Okay, so it's not kind of a question, but it's more like an end note. First of all, thanks a lot for all the speakers that has come across. It's quite informative. And to sum up all the discussion that we had, throughout the discussion, I was just thinking that what is the purpose of us as an architect? Because we had debate between practitioners, providers, material providers. Us as an architect, we are selling ideas. We are providing a vision. We're painting a picture for what the clients are looking for. It's not just
to realize eventually. Yes. That's where the cost part comes in. Otherwise, it won't be a reality. So it's not be a painter.
Yes. So it's not just aesthetics versus economics. It's both aesthetics, ethics, and economics. And eventually, you make multiple options, out of which you look at what are the compatibility depending on different kinds of materials. Because even right now when I walked in, I was just having a word with one of your material providers. Look at your competitions out there. What is the range that you are providing? So if you are not providing me a better material compatible to my idea, then I obviously move on to someone else. So we're looking at different options and eventually we're coming up with some kind of a solution. And that is why we look at that particular picture where aesthetics, ethics comes with economics.
Thank you. So it's like always, India, Pakistan, India, China saying we agree to disagree, we'll meet again. So let's conclude with a political statement. It's aesthetics of economics and economic aesthetic. Thank you very much. Thanks for being a patient listener. And thanks to the panelists for the viewpoints and sharing their work.
And would request
we have to
facilitate for felicitations. And meanwhile, could I call Mayur Maru, Territory Manager Specification, Hefale, India, and Mr. Bibhu Srivastava. Principal Architects, Pune Designs. Kartik Bajlani, CEO, KBA Designs.
This city is very special. You are very close to our heart. You give us a lot of confidence. When we started with this last year, and every time I have seen a hall at this time, none of you left. So give yourself a huge round of applause, please. Please let this be the loudest. This is so inspirational for us. I think it's been a marathon evening, but truly of substance. The debate will continue. विवाद चलते रहेंगे. And I think that's the objective. The thread of discussion continues. We now move from here to Chandigarh on 9 June, followed by 16 June in Calcutta. And obviously, I see a lot of young faces here. We're doing a very nice forum called Aizen Design Forum, which celebrates design, which celebrates talent below the age of 40. There's so much to talk, but I think I'll leave you once again from all sponsors, a big, big thanks to everybody there and all of you who participated. And sir, thank you. Big fan of yours. Thank you.